I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
And that's hit pretty well and pretty deep to left. Gardner is going back, looking up. See you later!
You golden blank staggered black skeleton of blinkety black punk are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Do you believe it?
Murphy picked out of midair to Amani. Set him up Roenick. Hartland! 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 Jeremy Roenick! After the giveaway was forced by Amani. What a play by Tony Amani. And Jeremy Roenick fired it home at the 123 mark. And the Blackhawks have come back from the dead in this series.
Well, good morning. And welcome, folks, to the wacky Wednesday edition of Snowman in the Morning. You can follow along with us on social media by dialing up SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to Snowman Digital Media for all of our great conversations from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media. This is the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. You can hear us every Monday, which is today, through Friday on all of our great stations and networks in the region, across the nation and around the world, and across the internet. And the podcast version of this here show will be available right after this show is completed. You ready to get into it? Good. Let's get started. I'll start with this. There were some people that listened to my podcast and my show yesterday, and they were not happy. And to that I say, good. Why do I say that? Well, if you tuned in to the show yesterday, number one, thank you. And number two, you know what the subject matter was. For the first hour, I had Cole Johnson on the show, and we talked a comparison of LeBron James to other players, namely Michael Jordan. Now, did I say at all yesterday, for those of you that listened, did I say anything at all to the point where I said Jordan was perfect and LeBron was always wrong? No, I did not. In fact, I seem to remember saying that Jordan was not perfect, that Jordan had to learn a few things along the way. The point I made about LeBron is that he is missing the one thing that he's needed in his life. When it came to basketball, let me be clear, when it came to basketball, progression. All of the greats, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Akeem Olajuwon, they had to have some sort of obstacle, whether it was in high school or college or the NBA, to get through to become a champion and to become a legend. And they got through them. Of course, you know one of the biggest ones with Michael Jordan was the Detroit Pistons. What was the biggest one with Magic Johnson? They had to play Game 6 in Philadelphia without their captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I've always said LeBron James is a wonderful athlete. He's just an incomplete basketball player. Well, as y'all know, and I hate saying it this bluntly, and I'm going to say it as bluntly as I will. I was in a group, a little backstory. I was in a group called 94 Feet of Life, a supposed basketball group on Facebook. And I say supposed because some of the conversation in there doesn't involve any real research. More on that later. But Cole and I were on for a full hour yesterday, for hour one, talking the difference between LeBron and some of the greats that preceded him. I also made the point that Michael Jordan didn't even say that he was the greatest, although many, myself included, consider him to be. That's a fun debate to have. And it's just that, a debate. Well, I got some backlash yesterday with my podcast to the tune of comments like these from a fellow named Marcus Blackstock. And y'all are gonna love these. He said, quote, "Brian, you spent a whole hour bitching about LeBron and the fans. That's the same thing you accused others of doing to you. So why did you waste a whole hour complaining about him?" Close quote. First of all, I didn't spend a whole hour complaining about him. I was comparing his game to others. Since others want to compare his game to Michael Jordan, I went and broke that prospect down. If you actually listen to more than 4 minutes of the program, you'll actually understand where I was going, where I was coming from, and where I was getting to. But unfortunately, Marcus Blackstock, you didn't listen to the entire program, nor have you bothered to listen to my show. This is why I never explained anything in the group, because I knew you would take something that I said or my guest said and twist it completely out of context like a pretzel with salt on it. That's why I left the group. I also got this from Marv Cotton Cole, and yes, I am dropping names this morning. That chase down block is one of the greatest in finals history, and the fact that he came back from 3-1 versus a team that just set the record for wins in the season is one of the greatest comebacks in history. I'll hit those 2 points in a moment. You spent 60 minutes, and if you actually learn how to spell, then actually I can understand what you're saying. In any case, you spent 60 minutes attempting to complain and belittle Braun, but won't take 3 minutes to respond to comments made on a post. Maybe there is a reason why I won't take 3 minutes to respond to comments made on a post. Maybe there was a reason why I won't take 3 minutes of your precious time and make you understand the old school way where I'm coming from when it comes to basketball, when you use your eyes and not just statistics. Maybe there is a reason why I didn't take 3 minutes of you all's precious time and actually explain myself, why I've been a journalist for 25 years and y'all are just fans. Maybe there is a reason why I dropped the podcast in there to get you guys to listen. And thank you for listening, by the way. Maybe there was a reason why I did everything in the group the way that I did. I'm just sorry it went right over your head like I totally expected it to. Here's another one. And I got to tell you, y'all are going to love this. Y'all are absolutely going to love this. You have to give me a moment to find it, and I found it. Did I mention that people don't have any sense? How about this? The Bronsexuals tag Ronnie C. Jr. I'm dropping names today, folks. Ronnie C. Jr. says the Bronsexuals tag killed my interest. Let me read that again. Quote, "The Bronsexuals tag killed my interest. And these comments confirm my suspicions, insulting people who's fans of a certain player, not the way to go. Plus, it's one-sided. I'm good." Close quote. How can you be so stupid and so blind and so dumb and so deaf? I retract that question. I am sorry. I'll retract that question, and I'll pose this one instead. Why'd you let the point of my show go right over your head? As I said a few moments ago, maybe there's a reason why I did everything the way that I did. The fact that you actually took the time to listen even for a little bit, A, allows me to say thank you, and B, just proves to me what you all are in that group, which is a bunch of fans. A bunch of fans that don't do any research. A bunch of fans that don't even bother to take the time to look at my points and visualize them with his play on the court. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I apologize for the way I was going to phrase my question. Why don't you guys just take the time to look and listen to what I'm saying and how I'm saying it? Why don't you take the time to do that? Why don't you take the time to actually think about my points instead of just attacking them? Why don't you take the time to actually listen to the points that I made? Because I did not diss any fans, nor will I diss any fans. I'm just saying y'all look at it one-sided and don't look at the entire picture. Something I'll admit I was accused of for many years in this business. When I get down to the business of research, I look at everything. I don't just look at numbers. I don't just look at fantastic plays. I look at the entire game. And a couple of my statements still stand. Number one, LeBron's game is still incomplete even in his 17th year. If he had a post game, some better footwork, and maybe a jumper that worked from time to time, then maybe, just maybe, I'll enter him into the greatest of all time conversation. But considering the fact that in 2011, and thank you Cole Johnson for remembering this for me, but considering the fact in 2011, in games 3 through 6, he scored a total of 8 points in the fourth quarter. That's 2 points for each game, by the way, if you do your math. It eliminated him from the greatest of all time conversation. And there's no way he'll re-enter the conversation from my standpoint, from Cole's standpoint, and for any other real basketball fan's standpoint. You gotta remember, you have to produce when the time comes. You have to produce when the lights are brightest. And as far as I'm concerned, even given the fact that the Cavaliers and LeBron James did erase a 3-1 lead versus the Golden State Warriors in 2016, as far as I'm concerned, LeBron is still not the greatest because for that series, it should have been Kyrie Irving named the unanimous MVP because he did something LeBron hasn't done but once. Oh yeah, that will be hit the game-winning shot in a world championship series. Oh, and by the way, the next 2 years, LeBron James got baked in the sun against the Golden State Warriors. They only played a total of 9 games. The Warriors won 8 of them. Yeah, that will be 2 championships. You guys really need to learn how to watch basketball and pay attention to basketball. You guys really need to learn about how a professional broadcaster, yours truly, has been doing this for 25 seasons. Now I understand all the hatred that Stephen A. Smith goes through when people come at him. Stephen A., I retract any bad words I may have said about you in the past. Now I completely understand. I understand now. And the mountain climb continues. Back in the climb. Hey, folks, Snowman here. Mark your calendars for April 20th. That's 2 weeks from now, because that's when I'm going to launch on my website the Snowman Digital Media Store. T-shirts, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff with your favorite show logo or the Snowman Digital Media logo. That comes 2 weeks. April 20th is when the store will launch, and you can only see it on snowmandigitalmedia.com.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back to the program, folks. Don't forget that you can hit us on all of our social media using the ID SNW Digital Media. That's SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. And speaking of having some great guests on the show that we distribute through all of our social media, don't forget to check out our Patreon as well. Uncle Smoothie is back. Chris Williams has joined me. How are you, my friend?
What's happening, partner? Thank you so much for bringing me back. I must be doing something well.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of things well. Man, listen. All right, this is the one of the few times where I'm going to be a fan. What the hell happened?
All right, well, it's a lot going on. What the hell happened concerning? Be more specific for me. A little bit more specific, man.
With our
There's a lot you can say that too.
I know. Boy, isn't that the truth? That's a conversation for later. That's probably a conversation for Snowman Unfiltered, and that's a shameless plug, as you all know. But the sports world has ground to a halt for very good reason.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. Very good reason.
No doubt.
But damn it, I'm a fan.
No doubt. Well, you know what? Right now, obviously, safety comes first.
Indeed.
But guys like you and myself who love sports, right now I'm a little bit more, I'm still active. I can play a little bit here and there. So it's a tough time. It's so tough, man.
Yeah, it is.
Only thing we can really kind of sink our teeth in is a little bit of football news.
Yeah.
But, during this time period, there's so much that's usually going on. So we're in a tough spot.
I miss March Madness so much.
Listen, Snowman, I am so disappointed from that aspect. I did the last basketball game on ESPN as a color commentator of the 2020 season.
Yeah.
I did a MAC tournament game, Siena versus Fairfield, which was the last game that they shut everything down with.
Yeah.
So during that time period, everyone was just so disappointed. The atmosphere in the arena was so down, Snowman.
Yeah.
The players, parents, coaches, people working in the arena, because obviously we didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And we had just heard that a number of tournaments were shut down. I believe that day, the Big East tournament at halftime had shut down. We finished up our game, which was the last one. No fans.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a great atmosphere to begin with, but we thought we would at least be able to get through it. So you just know everyone was so disappointed, and the faces on those young people was, it was the worst.
I bet. I saw the report. I saw the reports flying in. When I checked out of work, I saw the reports flying in. Big East was canceled. Big Ten was canceled.
Correct.
Pac-12 was canceled. I mean, the cancellations were flying in by the second.
Yes, they were. I believe the MAC conference was the last one to cancel.
They were the last one.
Therefore, we were the last game that was played, which was a tournament game, obviously, to try to figure out who would go to the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
And nothing conspired, and everybody was just so disappointed.
Yeah.
They had to shut everything down.
It's disappointing, but it's a safety issue, and when you have a safety issue, you have to take every precaution necessary. And I say it on this show.
And you're dealing with young people who are amateurs. I think that's important to note also. And you have to take that in consideration.
You have to take everything into consideration, especially the safety of the fans, the safety of the players. It was thought of by the NCAA that they were going to have the tournament games without fans, which would have been a weird atmosphere, and you experienced that.
It would have been very weird, but at least we would have had it.
Yeah.
And I've seen reports and I've read up, just doing a little bit of research on it after everything was canceled.
Yep.
a number of people were looking forward to at least trying to get the tournament going.
Mm-hmm. At least the first four in Dayton. At least the first four in at least the first four in Dayton. But if you don't have the fans and if you don't have the players and this pandemic spreads and in a closed area, it could spread very, very fast, and it could also bring a lot of panic, which is why Adam Silver shut the NBA down, postponed the season, and said we're going to make sure we help the country get this under control first before we resume any games. And he's looking into arena availability come August because he wants to get this season complete. Which brings this question to you: do we start over with the NBA, or do we complete this season? Your thoughts?
I really think we complete the season if it comes to that point. A number of players are putting a lot of hard work, coaches and all these groups, and you want to try to finish up something that you started. I don't think it would be fair to start over until you start a new season.
Fair enough.
So I would be a fan of starting exactly where you stopped off, because you have the number of players who've had really good years. You know, you have that MVP race, and I've seen you go back and forth. Well, actually, you know what? I haven't seen you go back and forth. I know you have a clear-cut winner.
Yeah, and it's Giannis.
Obviously, people want to throw their hat in that ring also. So I would like to see it start where it ended, in my opinion.
Yeah. You want to pick it up where you left off, and get some questions answered. Can Milwaukee finally complete the picture and get their first NBA title since 1974?
Yes.
Can the Los Angeles Lakers get their first title since 2010? Those are the two big storylines. Can the Golden State Warriors swing a trade for Karl Anthony Towns and get themselves back in the competition and have a good end to this season?
Man, I like it.
I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started. Can the Warriors swing a trade for Karl Anthony Towns and bait Minnesota with Andrew Wiggins? And get them. Look, I put this rumor out there 2 weeks ago, and I think it's going to happen. Can the Houston Rockets use microball to get themselves to a title? My answer is no, but I know other people will say different. Let's go on.
Well, check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're throwing a lot at me. Let me just jump on one. Can I jump on one, please?
Take a couple.
Because I love watching your Facebook feed. And if anyone doesn't know, the Snowman gives you a lot of good nuggets out there. And I sit back and watch and laugh and comment here or there.
Yeah.
But one I have to jump on. The Houston Rockets. I've never been a fan of the way they play. Unfortunately, because James Harden is so good of a one-on-one basketball player, he gets a lot of love, and I give him kudos for that. But there's no way the Rockets can win playing the way they play. And it's sad that we feed into it year in and year out. There's no way you can win playing like that, Snowman.
Amen.
And then you bring Westbrook over, and that just really just ruins him.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that thinks that.
Neither guy can do it by themselves. It's unfortunate.
And they've
tried. So I just want
tried.
to tackle one of them.
And they've tried.
Oh, no, they tried. Because the NBA season is so long, you're going to have games where guys are going to have big numbers. And they are that good where they can score a lot of points and be effective on certain nights.
Mm-hmm.
But in a 7-game series, when it becomes more close-knit, a grind-out type affair, the scouting reports are intense.
Yep.
There's no way you can play like that and beat someone in a 7-game series, especially if it's a good team when we get into the playoffs.
And Lord knows they've tried 4 of the last 5 years.
Yes.
They've run into Golden State, the kings of microball. But here's the difference between the way Golden State plays microball and the way Houston plays microball. Golden State spreads the ball around.
Right.
Golden State has had a big man.
There's movement.
Golden State has had a big man to depend on. Anybody remember Andrew Bogut? Anybody remember Kevin Durant? Anybody remember Zaza Pachulia? They ran the ball through Pachulia, and they've gotten some effective shots.
And they play better motion offense, whereas the Houston Rockets play ISO basketball.
Yep.
So there should be an argument from someone who's listening who say, well, listen, Snowman Smooth, how dare you say that? The year they had Chris Paul, they took the Warriors to a 7th game.
Yeah,
and you're exactly right. Because of Chris Paul, who's a solid point guard who understands how to play playoff basketball. That's why they were that close, and they possibly could have beaten the Warriors that year.
No.
But not with Russell Westbrook doing what he does.
I say no with Chris Paul, and here's why. They should have closed them out. I'm speaking of the Rockets. In 2018, they get a 3-2 lead. They hold the Warriors to under 100 points in Houston in Game 5. They should have closed them out in Oakland in Game 6.
Oh, yes, they should have. You're right. I totally agree.
An 11-point lead at halftime, and you only put up 25 points in the second half, and you get mauled.
The bottom line is it comes down to the isolations.
Yep.
And when that game was closed out, you were going to Harden and letting them go one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough. It's tough to do that in the playoff series.
It is.
Because night in and night out, everybody's going to make adjustments. That's the one great thing about professional sports. You're not going to continue to get over on your talent and your athleticism. Somebody's going to make the adjustment.
Yeah.
We see it in all sports: football, basketball, Lamar Jackson. Nobody can catch up. Somebody's going to catch up with you sooner or later.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to happen.
The Tennessee Titans caught up with him and made him a one-dimensional player.
It happens.
On a Saturday night, they made him a one-dimensional player, which is the one thing I was afraid of with that Tennessee defense. You know, the Warriors made the Rockets one-dimensional, while the Warriors did not. And here's the biggest difference. In the series in 18 and 19, the Rockets had the Warriors down, but did the Warriors go away from what they do best? No.
Never. Well, it was a championship pedigree that they established. It's in their DNA. They stuck with what was well for them, and it worked. They won championships doing it. The Rockets haven't done it yet, so I don't understand why they're going to stick with it. And it's unfortunate that D'Antoni continually and consistently gets a job in the league. I can't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
I'm not one of those guys who advocates for people getting fired, but I just don't understand how year in and year out this man has a gig in the NBA.
I don't get it either. You know who should be coaching the Rockets right now, but it'll never happen? Kenny Atkinson.
It probably will not. And he's a very good coach.
It ain't going to happen for two very simple reasons. James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Just like Kyrie Irving, and I'll get to him in a moment. Just like Kyrie Irving.
Oh, yeah.
Just like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant got him out of Brooklyn. And the Brooklyn Nets should still be the New Jersey Nets, but I digress.
Oh, my man, Snowman. Well, check this out. Let's make this clear. The NBA is a players' league. They run the league. Those guys decide on who should be their coach, what they're going to do. In most cases, again, I've been in some NBA huddles.
Yep.
Whatever play that's run by the coach is decided by those players once they get on the floor.
True.
Huge Philly fan. You know, I'm born and raised in Philly. Loved Allen Iverson. But the story was always that Allen Iverson did his own thing. Larry Brown would run some excellent plays.
Mm-hmm.
But once these guys get on the floor, this guy goes solo.
Yeah.
But he's so good, it works.
Yeah, it works. It works.
It works.
For a while, it was Michael Jordan.
Now, the type of coach that usually works in the NBA for teams that are trying to get across that hurdle, a coach who's won a championship. Obviously, there's not that many of them out there. Those are the guys who put their foot down and demand certain guys and certain teams to do what needs to be done because they can always bring that ring into their face.
Yep. And Larry Brown tried to do it with Allen Iverson.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That was a tough one.
You know, and you know what's crazy? Michael Jordan was that way for a while, and then Phil Jackson showed up and put his foot down. But the difference being, and I love Allen Iverson. Don't get me wrong. Love Allen Iverson.
Same here. Let's make that clear. Like I said, born and raised in Philly, I would always jokingly tell people, Allen Iverson can take 4 guys off the street and win a couple of games in the league with us. That's how good he was.
But again, Michael Jordan was Allen Iverson for a while until Phil Jackson showed up. The only difference being Michael Jordan was willing to listen, and it made him better, and it made him greater. Broadsexuals, listen carefully. 2 things Michael Jordan did that made him greater. He was willing to listen, and he implemented everything that Phil Jackson put in his head. Because Mike knew, especially with the Detroit Pistons, it was a mind game more than a physical game.
Yes, indeed.
The Pistons made it physical. Indeed. Michael Jordan made it mental, especially in 1991 when the Bulls swept the Detroit Pistons. And what happens when you have a leader willing to listen to a coach? It filters down into the teammates. Just ask Stephen Curry. Just ask Klay Thompson. Just ask Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr played with Michael Jordan.
Yes, he did.
Steve Kerr played with MJ.
I can't remember what year was that, Snowman.
1997.
Knocks down that mid-range jumper.
1997.
Jordan called that in the huddle before they came out.
Yep, and Michael just looked at Steve and said, "You be ready." And Steve looked at him back and said, "I'll be ready to knock it down." And he knocked it down. When you have teammates like that, and I'm leading right into Kyrie Irving with this, folks, and a lot of people are going to be upset with me, but I don't care. I've discussed this on my show. You've heard me discuss this on my show.
Let's hear it.
The Kyrie experiment in Brooklyn needs to end now.
Well, I'm just going to toss this out as a debate point, which I love. It hasn't started yet. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to go well. But we like to see both of them on the floor because as a star, when you become a superstar, in my opinion, is when you understand you have to share. You have to share, and sometimes you have to take a step back and sacrifice. I want to see both of them on the floor together and see what happens. But that's the area where most stars have a problem. Understanding they have to share and sacrifice some of their game to make others better.
Which is why I feel right now the Nets won't win a darn thing, because you have a player in Kyrie Irving that won't share. Talk to LeBron James about that.
We haven't seen him and KD together yet. You got to give him the benefit of the doubt.
No, I will not.
Fairness to him.
In fairness. You want to talk about fairness? Yeah. He had 2 years to be the leader in Boston, and it went sideways.
Agree. What I believe happened in Boston, Kyrie comes in, he wants to be the alpha male, and those young guys, Brown and Tatum, those guys were very, very good. I don't think he realized how good they were. And they had done so much the previous year.
Yep.
And they were basically like, listen, man, we can't take a step backwards just because you came here.
Right.
We still need to shine. Jason Tatum is going to be an MVP candidate before it's all said and done.
Next year.
He's that good.
I'm calling it right now. Next year, he will be an MVP candidate.
Yes. And I don't think he needed to be a sidekick. And
no.
Kyrie learned that early on. And another issue we haven't touched on, Kyrie's injury prone.
That's obvious.
You got to be able to play 82 games or at least come out and show me I'm the leader. I can sustain my body, being able to tell you what to do and being able to do it myself and be out there able to play. And he hasn't done that for a full season in a while.
I don't think he's done it. I don't think he's done it in the last 7 years.
I don't even think he's done it his entire career.
I don't think he's done it in the league. I don't think Kyrie's played a full 82 games since he's been in the league. Right. Hell, he didn't even play a full season at Duke. He played 11 games.
Right. Well, I said throughout his entire career, he's been very injury prone. Now, for him, what he's excellent at, he's a huge, big-time player in closing moments. He does well when the lights are on. He closes out games, but he's a one-on-one guy. He likes to pat the rock. Mm-hmm. He'll give it a headache. But when you're playing with other good players, they need to touch it also.
You know what? I made
and that's why Kemba Walker is a much better fit for the Celtics.
I love Kemba Walker. Love Kemba Walker as a fit in Boston. I made this argument on my show, and I want to get your thoughts. The same big-time shot that made Kyrie Irving also broke him. And I'm talking about the shot he hit in 2016 to beat Golden State and win the title. That shot made him, and the next season broke him because he got
Explain
cooked.
How it broke him. I need to get a little bit more insight on how it broke him.
In simplest terms, he got cooked in 5 games. He got absolutely blistered because the Warriors figured out what to do. They sent different people at him, and Kyrie couldn't handle it. Kyrie could not handle it. It wasn't just Stephen Curry guarding Kyrie Irving. That's the match. If you're Kyrie, that's the matchup you want. You don't want to see Klay Thompson.
No question about it. You want that matchup, yes.
You don't want to see Klay Thompson. You don't want to see Andre Iguodala. You definitely don't want to see Kevin Durant. It was a height difference. Steve Kerr figured out, okay, it's going to be a height difference. So let me send
you need
three
some
bigger
you need some
players.
length and athleticism on a guy like Kyrie.
Yeah, and Andre Iguodala baked him in an oven in 2 games in the 2 games in Oakland, especially the final game. And I love the fact that Steph got his revenge, and that's a selfish pleasure for me when Steph brought the ball through his legs, wrapped it around him, got Kyrie one way, leaned the other way, and banged home a 3 that clinched the title. And, and Steph just looked back and said, we're even. Okay, we're even. Right. So, and then Kyrie was out of there.
Let's take a little bit of the emotional bias out of it, because it sounds as though you're a Warriors fan. So I'm gonna squeeze a little bit out of you from that standpoint. In fairness to Kyrie, again, I like this advocate that I'm playing here. Kind of reminds me of First Take, what we're doing here. So Kyrie, exceptional one-on-one player. That's what he does well. So at the end of games in the NBA, you don't need to call a play for him. Give him an ISO.
True. I'll give you that.
Clear out a side for him. He's going to get to the basket or get a shot that he wants.
I'll give you
that.
Which
he did to close out. Right, which he did to close out the championship season that one year.
Yes.
I don't know the years. I know you're good with numbers.
2016.
We talked about how teams at the NBA level, NFL level, at the professional level make adjustments.
Yes.
Warriors make their adjustments. Understand you need to put some length on him.
Mm-hmm.
You need to put some height on him, some athleticism on him. He's still a very good one-on-one player, but
Truth.
Him not understanding that he needs to share, he could have made other people better.
So do you think that happens in Brooklyn?
But I think that selfish mentality is still in his head. I can close this out on my own. Because at that stage, LeBron wasn't even the closer for the Cavaliers.
No,
they would allow Kyrie to close out games.
And that was the move that the Cavaliers needed to make. They needed to build around Kyrie. And if you really want to think about it, when LeBron returned, that deflated him. When LeBron returned to Cleveland, that deflated Kyrie because for 3 years, they built around Kyrie Irving. They built around him.
Right.
And then LeBron comes back, some people go packing, and then Kyrie's going, now what the hell do I do?
Well, there was certainly some alpha male issues with Kyrie and LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kyrie, after making the shot in that first championship season, was basically, I'm an alpha. I really believe I can have my own team. I know Kyrie had a really great relationship with Kobe. I think maybe some of those discussions were there.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was mentally prepared to have his own team. We saw it firsthand in Boston.
Yeah.
It's more than just what you do on the floor. We talked about him not being able to go an entire season without being injured. And all this plays out.
And being a leader in the locker room. How he handled the
media on certain occasions, certain things he said. He hadn't grown and matured to the point to be an alpha. And we haven't seen just yet now if he can be the alpha in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think it's a growth process. I think it's part of your maturity. But if you want to be the true superstar that we believe you can be, you have to make other people better.
And he hasn't.
You have to
yet.
make me feel good about my game, make me feel good about making shots, make me feel good about being on the floor at the end with you. If you can't do it, can I feel comfortable enough to know, Kyrie, you'll get me the ball, and if I make it, you're happy for me. A la Ron Artest, Metta World Peace, Kobe gives him the shot, he knocks down a 3, and he jokingly says, Kobe, pass me the ball.
Yeah, 2010. And that sealed the championship.
Right.
That's you
have
the
to
biggest
make
difference.
Other guys, other players around you feel good about what they bring to the table.
I'll close with this point. I've had so many people dive into my argument of LBJ versus MJ, and I said the biggest difference is Michael Jordan made his teammates better. And I've had people argue with me, well, LeBron's made his teammates better. Okay, let me pose a question to you. Has LeBron ever had that much confidence in Kyrie where Kyrie would knock down the winning shot and people would throw 2016 at me? And I say Kyrie did that on his own. He didn't do that, with the push from LeBron that LeBron was supposed to give him. Steve Kerr is a different story. Steve Kerr had the confidence from MJ after Kerr missed a big shot in Game 4. Game 6 at the United Center, Mike looked at Steve, and Steve looked back at Michael, and Steve said, I'll knock down the shot, and Steve knocked down the shot. That's a big difference. Right. For me, that's a huge, huge difference. That's Uncle Smoothie Chris Williams talking a little hoops with yours truly, the Snowman. Tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
My man Snowman, is always a pleasure. They can find me on Instagram, Hear Chris Speak, Twitter, Hear Chris Speak, and if you're still on Facebook, like the older ones like you and myself, Chris B. Last name Williams, WILLIAMS.
All right.
Now, Snowman, you have to let me give a rebuttal on that last point.
Go ahead.
I got to come back on the last point because I love your emotional bias. We know you love the Bulls. We know you love Chicago.
You know, that's my hometown. That's my hometown. I got to bring that up. All right, finish it.
Now check this out. In all honesty, both guys make people better. LeBron has always made other people better, and that's been his knock. He's always played the game the right way. The difference between those two is Michael is a certified killer. He goes for the neck, no blood, and he will not let you go. LeBron, more, okay, you know what, I'll let you play for a little bit. Let's make it competitive and see if I can do something here. No, Michael wants to snuff you out. I love the way Chauncey Billups made the comparison of the two. He said the difference between the two is no one could eat when Michael was on his watch. He kept so many superstars away from winning a championship.
Yes.
Ewing, Barkley, all these guys. None of these guys sniffed it when Michael was on his watch because he wanted to step on your neck. And as Chauncey said, everybody eats during LeBron's reign. So I'm going to sum it up that way.
And there's truth to that. Shout to Chauncey Billups with that.
I love that, man.
Mr. Big Shot himself, Chauncey Billups with that quote. Thanks a lot, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Last one, Snowman. I can't let you go without this. Give me a little bit of Dave Zinkoff since you went into announcers.
And
can I get the dot
forward from University of Massachusetts, captain of the Eastern Conference Championship team, Julius the Doctor Irving.
That's my Philly fam. Each time we talk, we got to close out with that. That's classic.
Gotta have Zink to close it out. And I got some old Sixer games when they used to be on CBS. I got some of those now in my library, and I'm loving it. Thanks a lot, my friend. I truly appreciate the time.
I appreciate it, partner. Thank you so much.
More for you in a deuce.
Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. Hope you're enjoying it as we're enjoying bringing it to you. You know, I am a fan of podcasts. I record them, I produce them, and I listen to them, a lot of them. And this one got my attention, and you guys know that I've begun to recommend a lot of good podcasts for y'all to listen to. Well, this one not only involves sports, it also involves life. And when I listened to it, I knew, well, when I heard about it, I knew I had to listen to it. I listened to it. I became a subscriber immediately, and I'm going to recommend this even before we get this done. The lady that I have on the line is the author of said podcast, Combining Football and Life. And when you listen to this podcast, you're going to get a lot out of it, and I recommend you not only sign up for it, download it, I just recommend everything about it. This is Jennifer Garrett, and she joins me right now. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great.
Okay, you got to tell me how you put this podcast together. What gave you the idea, and what gave you the inspiration to put it together?
Sure. So my podcast is called Move the Ball, and that name was taken from a book that I wrote 7 years ago. And the book was about how you could take football lessons specifically and apply them off the field to be successful in business and in life. And after the book was published, I spent the last 7 years really working with people on how to move the ball and really grow that brand. And I decided that I wanted to do the podcast because it was just another great way to connect with people, having great conversations with professional athletes of all sports, as well as business leaders, on how we can use the athlete mentality and put into practice success strategies and habits so that we can get ourselves to the next level.
You started the podcast the day after the Super Bowl. You really pumped it up. And I have to tell you, I really enjoy it. I know I'm going to enjoy it a lot. What got you into football? What got you started in liking football?
Great question. So I grew up in Chicago in the 80s. I just fell in love with the game. You know, ever since I was 4, I would watch football games with my parents. And what really intrigued me about the sport was not only the fast-paced nature of the game, but also there were these games where you would have these fourth quarter comebacks where teams were down, 2, 3, 4 touchdowns, and the game wasn't over until the game clock hit 0. And so I just found that fascinating and studied the sport my entire life and applied lessons from the game into my own life.
That is great. So you grew up a fan of the Bears back in the 80s, huh? Because I too am from Chicago, and I've seen the Bears over many years. Are there any other teams that you follow aside of the Bears?
Professional or college or either?
Either one.
So I am an Alabama alum, so I very much follow the University of Alabama football team. We had a rough season here this past season, but they'll be back next year for sure.
So I could have you on the show, and all I have to say is roll tide, and off to the races we go. How about a professional aside of the Bears? You follow anyone else?
There's a lot of teams that I like to watch. I think there's some great leaders who are great people both on and off the field. So it's not just the talent, but it's the character. Everyone talks about Tom Brady, right, and how great he was in New England. We'll see where he ends up going. But I do enjoy watching that team because of the leadership. There's a lot of people that don't like watching the.
Well, people have hated on my team because my original team in professional football was the 49ers, and because of a fellow named Joe Montana, who Tom Brady gets compared to all the time. So I completely understand, the hatred, but I draw the same comparison that people do with Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's because of the way that Montana led his team on the field and the way the organization is run. And a lot of that you can apply to what you do with your podcast, which is very motivational, and I absolutely love it. And the lessons that you bring, you can, like you said, you can apply it to life.
Yeah. So I say, I do like watching the Patriots. I mean, there's a lot of great teams. I do like Andy Reid. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Absolutely.
For winning the Super Bowl. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is just a class act. I enjoyed watching the game. Their organization. There's some NFC East teams that I like watching. The Eagles. I like watching the Cowboys. And so, I mean, I'm just a fan of the game, and I love watching good game, so I don't just sit down and watch the Bears play.
Absolutely wonderful. Talking with Jennifer Garrett. I love a phrase that I happened to catch when I was doing my research for this interview, and I love how you put this. Quote, "You are the quarterback. Your life is the game. Own it and move the ball." There's your purpose right there for your podcast. Who are some of the guests that you've taped episodes with or going to tape episodes with so far?
Sure. So the first 3 episodes were released just this past week. The first one was just a solo of me, but I had on the show already Chris Leak. Chris was the quarterback who led the Florida Gators to their national championship in the 2006 season. So he was right before Tim Tebow. Tebow was a freshman when Chris was a senior, taking that team to their championship. Also, I had on Terrence Wood, who is the grandson of Pro Football Hall of Famer Willie Wood, who played for the Packers in the 1960s. Some other guests that I've recorded with already, Paul Pratt. Paul played with the Detroit Lions, and he's got a great organization called Second Wind Mentors, where he mentors young boys of single-parent homes currently. So we had a great episode. Another gentleman, Tony Simmons. Tony played on the Patriots. He played on a number of teams. He was nicknamed Touchdown Tony, played at Wisconsin for college ball. Some future guests that are coming up as well. Eric Dungy, who is the son of Tony Dungy. We're going to be recording an episode here in a couple of weeks. But it's not just football athletes. So I've also got a pro skateboarder, Mikey Taylor, who I recorded a show with. His episode will come out early March. Also Rob Murray. Rob played in the National Hockey League and the American Hockey League for many years. He's currently coaching the Tulsa Oilers, which is a minor league hockey team. So my goal is really a good cross section of athletes from all sports.
Absolutely wonderful. Again, this is Jennifer Garrett. You can find her podcast on anywhere where you listen to. It's called Move the Ball. It's the Move the Ball podcast, and it's absolutely wonderful. Tell everybody where they can find you, my dear.
Yeah, so the easiest way, I mean, it's going to be on all the platforms, or it is on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. But if you just go to movetheballpodcast.com, you can listen to it directly there, and there are links to all of those other podcasting platforms.
Jennifer Garrett joining me here on the program to talk Move the Ball and how she uses football to move the ball in life, and you can do the same thing. Absolutely great having you on. I got to have you on again soon.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show today.
We got more coming up in a sneak. You may have noticed I made a couple of changes here, and I have housed everything under Snowman Digital Media. SnowmanInTheMorning.com is still alive, but there are some changes to it. You only hear parts of some interviews that I have now, but if you want to hear the rest, why don't you do me a favor and become a member of the SnowmanInTheMorning.com website. All it'll cost you is $10 per month, and not only will you get some full interviews and some full hilarious interviews, but you'll get proxy to some video that I'm putting together and a few surprises that I won't release to the public just yet. It'll only cost you $10 a month. You go to snowmaninthemorning.com and you click on the button register for this website, or look in the menu that says join the website. I got more for you after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
Hour 2. Let's have some fun here. Normally, when I bring a guest on, it's usually that, a guest. But then something came across my desk, and I had to have both of these guests on at the same time. Never thought something like this will happen or would happen, but I'm glad it's happening right now, and you folks are around for it. Please help me welcome this mother-daughter duo in radio, Shirley Walker King and Valencia King, and they're going to tell you their story through their eyes. How are you doing, ladies? Great to have you.
Hello, and hello. Hey, great to be on.
I hear the hey, and it reminds me of my hometown of Chicago, and now I'm really ready to get going. How are you guys doing? Great to have you.
We're doing great, thank you. Actually, Valencia was born in Illinois because my husband, we were stationed in Waukegan, Illinois. So maybe that's that little vibe you were getting.
Waukegan, Illinois, a north suburb. Those of you in Chicago that listen to the program, you're familiar with Waukegan. So, man, oh man, like I said, I am thrilled to have you on. Tell me how you guys got into radio. I am so interested to hear this story.
Okay, the short of the long and the long of the short. I am a former professional basketball player, so I have played sports pretty much all my life. It was my outlet to keep me from having to go to anger management classes, so it worked for me.
I'm loving this story already, folks.
Right. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, she's followed in her mother's footsteps. Well, not technically. She kind of did it her own way. So I know sports from the aspect of I'm a former athlete, and I did some radio, not a lot, just some volunteer radio while we were stationed overseas in Italy. And that was my only exposure to radio. But taking into my daughter, how Valencia got into it, now that's an interesting story in itself. Yeah, so for me, I played some sports growing up, but I was always more of the performing arts, the drama, the theater, the dance. I just wanted to be on stage in front of the camera, performing a show. And so after I finished, I think it was my 7th grade year, I played I played volleyball and some basketball. But then from there, I pretty much knew that I just wanted to be, in front of the camera and on stage or in front of a microphone. And so while my mom was playing basketball, I would, keep the stats for her. I would sometimes, if you ask me, I think I coached them to a couple of championships. And, I would just be in on that side of it. So I've always, like you said, been around sports. I've been a gym baby for years, but I just kind of grew into going into it on that side of it, more or less like covering the game.
Man, oh man, very great story. And Shirley, absolutely awesome the way you put it. And if I'm allowed to quote, I played basketball to keep me out of anger management classes. I so understand that.
Yeah, it kept me out of the principal's office, and it kept my mother from having to come up to the school to talk about what Shirley or her sisters have gotten into this week. So she only had to come up there for my sister.
Oh, gracious. If it keeps you out of trouble and keeps you out of the principal's office, then, you know, there should be no complaints about it. These two folks, this mother-daughter duo, 2019 Business Women of the Year, they are indeed the dynamic duo. Valencia, tell the folks about your show.
Oh, absolutely. So I began my show as Real Talk Radio back in February of 2011. And so kind of like how the nation is in a quarantine at the moment, it wasn't as severe. Back in 2011, I was in college at UNT, and we got snowed in for an additional week after spring break. So that's about 14 or so odd days of everyone on the college campus not being able to go anywhere, barely even making it to the cafeteria without falling on ice.
Right.
And I told my parents that I had wanted to start, doing an online radio show. And I said, well, now is the time because we're all stuck in our dorm, so everyone should be listening. And so from there, I grew it into, doing it while I was in college. And then I actually met Bill Wright, who owns KKVI Radio, at a community event, told him about my show. He knew this is what I was going to school for, and he offered me the platform of bringing my online radio show to his FM station, and it kind of grew from there. So I've been doing radio and having my own show since about February of 2011 under Real Talk Radio, which has now grown into Real Talk Sports as well. So, yeah.
Man, and I had a chance to catch a piece of that show, and folks, you need to follow these two, and you need to listen to Valencia's show. It's absolutely fantastic. A couple of other points that I want to touch on. These two, they are workshop facilitators as well. They do seminars, breakout sessions, and when I read your information, did some more research, there is one subject that came to me that I wanted you all to touch on. And it's something that I went through for the better part of 10 years. So it's like you get that point, and Valencia, from being a radio host, you hear that one point or see that one point or that one buzzword, and you sink in and you want to attack this. Anybody that has been through any kind of bullying, be it cyberbullying or in-person bullying, please talk to these two, because they love talking about it. What gave you the idea to include this in you guys' topics?
I'll lead her into it. It actually started. Now this is going to date her, not me, because I'm very young at heart. It actually started when they had MySpace. Remember that platform?
Oh my God, yes, MySpace.
So yeah, while she was in high school and they had MySpace is when it started, and then from then on we were like, yeah, we got to put a name on this, and we got to teach people how to not be included, and definitely not be a keyboard thug, as I call them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Being in that, I'm under the millennial category, but I still know a life without the internet and social media. And so I'm in that in-between category. But for me, definitely the cyberbullying came in around the MySpace age. And even in high school, we were around cyberbullying before it had a real name. Mm-hmm. And so I knew coming out of high school and going into college, and as I began to speak to more youth and young adults, this was something that was going to get worse. Even though we want to prevent it, we knew it was something that was going to get more intense, because there's only a more broader spectrum of social media nowadays. And so I just knew that seeing from my friends, be involved with regular peer pressure and then adding that cyber effect to it, that is something that I had to not only help prevent myself, but speak up to help teach people how they can also be a part of preventing it. Because I've always had it in my nature to, stand up for the person who has a voice that just may not carry or be as loud as they may grow into it later down the line. But I've always had my voice. So if I can do nothing else, I can speak on behalf of someone whose voice is going unheard at the moment.
That is absolutely fantastic, which leads me to this, another topic you guys touch on, during your seminars, self-esteem, mirror check, and more. Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, so for me, my mom and I'm not just saying this because she's sitting right next here with me, but my mom always told me, you know, how beautiful I was. She always told me how smart I was. She always told me how confident she was in me, and that helped to instill my own confidence within myself. And you mentioned cyberbullying, but before cyberbullying, there was just regular plain old bullying. And I experienced some of that between my youth and young adult age, because I would get teased for, you know, the size of my lips or the way my hair texture was. And for those who can't see me right now, we call this in our family soup coolers, when you have big, luscious, full lips. And I was born with my lips being basically the same size, and I had to grow into them. You know how some people grow into like their ears or their face?
Yeah.
I had to grow into my lips. And so she always instilled in me, you know, how beautiful everything about me was. And so when people in my class would try to tease me about my lips or my hair, it was literally me not understanding. I was like, what do you mean? They're beautiful, because my mother already instilled it into me. And so just to kind of get back to your question about, you know, the mirror check and the confidence building, that's why it's so important for me, because everyone doesn't have someone who is helping to boost their self-esteem. Yeah. And so with the way social media makes perfection look like it's actually obtainable, and it's simply not. Social media, we like to say, is like the highlight reel. People are choosing what they can show you. They're not showing you the full story. Yep. But somehow people are still believing that what people post is the full story, and that's simply not the case.
It really isn't the case. And anyone who's followed me and followed this show, you know, I talk about all kinds of things that I've gone through, being homeless, losing a child, losing a lot of things. And social media shows you one aspect, but if you get to know the person, you will know all of their aspects. And one final point that I want you guys to touch on, when I saw the title of this, it hit home. And ladies, I want you to really listen carefully. Please talk about this topic, how to balance it all in heels. I got to hear you guys talk about this.
Yeah, that actually stems from a workshop that I do and a part of a book that I wrote. I'm in a book called Power Moms, and my chapter is called How to Balance It All in Heels. I came up with this because, again, as a former professional basketball player, you either saw me in high tops or high heels. Either way, it was going to be something high. And being a military spouse, like I said, we've lived several different places, from Illinois to Virginia, Maryland, Texas, overseas in Italy, California, and Cleveland for my husband. So we've lived several different places, and people are always asking me, Shirley, how do you balance it all? You know, you're married, successfully married, I might add. Ding!
Ding, ding.
You have a child. You have a child who's productive and a positive member of society, if you will. You know, and I have my mother and my mother-in-law, our business, and, you know, trying to fit in everything else. So when people would ask me how I balance it all in heel, it was kind of an easy transition for me to come up with that workshop and talk about how to balance life in heels. And for that, when I talk to women about how to balance the things that are in their life, you know, from spiritual to financial to your legacy, you know, to your career, to your relationships, you know, there are 6 or 7 different elements that I try and focus on when I tell people how to balance it all in heels. And I just tell them, you pick what elements are important to you in your life, and then you balance that to your standards, not to the standards of social media or anybody else, but to your standards.
That is absolutely fabulous. That is fabulous, and I'm so glad I had you two on. Folks, I always close my show with dream big, do bigger. Here are 2 examples of it, and they're here on the show with me, Shirley Walker King and Valencia King, and I want you two to tell people where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me at Shirley Walker King on Facebook. Again, that's Shirley Walker King. There should only be one. That's just me. And then on Twitter, I am Mrs. SWK, the number 1. And also Shirley Walker King on Instagram. So either Shirley Walker King or Mrs. SWK1. Absolutely. And you can find myself at I am Valencia King, because, well, I am Valencia King. See what we did there? That is on Instagram, Twitter. I am on Triller and TikTok for all of my social millennials out there. I'm on the TikTok and the Triller doing my dances. And also my YouTube channel is called Valencia King TV. And you can actually see my first episode of my television show, About and Out with Valencia King, which airs currently on Uplift TV. So you can see the pilot episode 1 on my YouTube channel. But if you don't remember anything else, just type in Valencia King and your girl will pop up.
Love it. Love it. This dynamic, fantastic duo was here on Snowman in the Morning and Snowman Digital Media, folks. Get to know them, follow them, and use their positivity to uplift your positivity. Ladies, I absolutely have had a fantastic time talking to you two, and I thank you guys very, very much.
Oh, the pleasure was all ours. We appreciate it, and stay strong, people. Yes, indeed. Thanks for having us.
Folks, I got more for you after the break.
This is Snowman in the Morning,
Holy on snow!
where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
The sports world has been at a halt for a while, and I still don't know what to make of this. So I decided to get some help. Desmond Johnson of Sports Carolina Monthly has joined me. How are you, my friend?
Doing good, Ryan. You doing okay, man?
I'm hanging in there, doing as best as I can, but we don't have any sports, man. This is this is nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I actually had to make the executive decision really it's about an hour or so ago that we decided to put the Rundown, our weekly sports talk format show that's online. We're putting on hiatus for a little bit because I just don't. I've always said when I started that show that I didn't want to do shows just to do shows.
Yeah.
And listening to sports talk radio here in the Triad and watching stuff like First Take and some of these other like sports talk shows that are on television, it feels like they're just recycling the same topics over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And we never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So primarily we're basically taking probably about a month off we did have plans to do an NFL greatest team ever, like super bracket type thing.
Yeah.
But I want to wait till we're closer to the draft. So, and we're converting over to video. So we're in the middle of doing some stuff right now. So I'm kind of taking the break to get us converted over, and we'll be back better than ever, probably in about 30 days.
Okay, that's cool. I can't wait to see it. I cannot wait to see it. I still got arguments with NBA folks here that want to challenge some of my knowledge. You know how that goes. But I must ask, do you think the NBA will restart this year? And if not, why?
I thought so a couple of weeks ago, but I'm not sure, because it really just depends. If they can get it going again by probably July at the latest, then yeah. But if we start dragging until like August, they're talking about postponing the Olympics at this point.
Yeah.
So if they're talking about postponing the Olympics, I can't really see the NBA coming back. And I know they don't want to do empty arenas and that kind of thing. Like, people need to understand how serious this situation is. And I think some people are still not coming to grasp, like they're kind of coming to terms with what's going on. So as it stands right now, the only way I can see the NBA coming back is if they stop the season where it ended and start the playoffs.
Yeah.
And even then, it would be kind of like 99, where it was like best of 3 series, and it was kind of a shortened type season. I could see maybe around August them coming back and doing, where the standings are now. We're taking these 8 teams from the East, these from the West, best of 3 all the way to the NBA Finals, and then it'd be a best of 7. And that would take them into probably mid-September maybe. But you got to deal with arenas and dates and things. Well, right now you don't have to deal with it because everything's been shut down. But you'd have to do a lot of jumping over a lot of hurdles to get it to go.
Yeah.
I think the date of no return's probably about July. If they're not back by July, then it's a good possibility that the NBA season might just get totally canceled out.
Yeah, and they just restart again, when everything does get together. Here's my...
Well, it'd be November when they'd be starting the next season anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Might have to just wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple of football moves I want to discuss with you, and here's one that kind of puzzles me, but then again, it doesn't puzzle me. Kyle Allen has just been traded from the Carolina Panthers to the Washington Redskins. What does this move mean for Dwayne Haskins?
I don't think it means much of anything for Dwayne Haskins. Kyle Allen is not a starter. I think he proved that over a larger sample size with the Panthers. The Panthers, if you really look at their offense, they have more offensive weapons technically than the Redskins did that I would trust. I'd rather have receiver and Christian at running back than Juice over at Washington. I can't even name their starting wide receivers, and their tight end is always banked up.
Yeah.
It's like Carolina had more for Kyle Allen to work with, and he still was kind of a 50-50, might get you a completion, might get you an interception kind of guy. He got exposed the more that he was out there, and I think it's really more Allen being kind of a security blanket for Ron Rivera, actually knowing what he can do, seeing him practice every day. I don't think Dwayne Haskins needs to be worried about it. If anything, he should breathe a sigh of relief, because the rumor was that maybe Cam Newton might be landing in Washington, and then it would have been a battle for the starting position.
True.
And Ron's going to lean more towards his guys. So I think if anything, it was more of a depth type thing for Washington. And I still wouldn't rule out Washington maybe using that number 2 overall pick on Tua. Haskins is not Rivera's guy. He did not pick him, so he's not obligated to keep him. And Arizona kind of laid that blueprint out. You draft a top 10 guy, quarterback. He's there for a year. New regime comes in. They get a high draft pick, and that becomes their quarterback in the future. And Kyler Murray. I don't think Dwayne Haskins should breathe a sigh of relief till after the draft is over.
Yeah. Let's look at Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins comes over in a trade from Houston. 2 questions for that. 1, what the hell is Bill O'Brien thinking? And 2, how does this benefit Arizona?
Well, it'll help Kyler Murray to have a top 10 wide receiver to go to, and unloading David Johnson, who's been banged up for, a couple of years now. To be able to get a top wide receiver for him was a coup for Arizona. But I think that Bill O'Brien, from the reports and everything, it kind of sounded like him and Hopkins kind of had a disagreement, misunderstanding, whatever it may be, an argument about DeAndre Hopkins and his multiple baby mothers, or however you want to put that. Hopkins, as far as I'm aware, he's never been in trouble with the law. He's never had any issues off the field, never failed a drug test or anything like that. I kind of wonder, what is Deshaun Watson thinking right now? You just traded away his number one target.
Yes.
And the Texans are on the verge of maybe the Texans, with Tom Brady no longer in the AFC, the Texans could have been one of those teams that could have possibly, got through to the Super Bowl. And I don't know if this was a good move if it was a move for the Texans. Maybe it was addition by subtraction in their mind.
Right.
But I think in the end, Arizona got the better part of that deal.
Yeah, Arizona really got the better part of that deal, picking up one of the most premier receivers in the league. Emmanuel Sanders signs with the Saints for 2 years. The 49ers have another receiver in reserve in Jalen Hurd out of Baylor. Does he finally, if he stays healthy, does he finally get his chance, or do we see a rumor come to life in the form of A.J. Green?
That's actually really interesting. I think A.J. Green will stay in Cincinnati. As you know, Joe Burrow a couple weeks ago publicly was like he wanted them to keep A.J. Green there because he's assuming he's going to be the number one overall pick. You'd like to have a guy there, although A.J. Green's had injury issues the past couple of years himself.
True.
And I'm not totally sold on Joe Burrow, to be honest with you. I'm always leery about one-year wonder type quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He had an average year the year before, and then he gets with Joe Brady at LSU and all the talent they had and throws 60 touchdowns. So, I'm not sure if I'd make him a friend. Honestly, I'd probably still take Tua before I take Burrow.
Yeah.
But, I don't think Cincinnati's going to trade it. I think they're going to hold on to him. As for San Francisco, it seems like they're stockpiling draft picks, so I can easily see them going, double dipping at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Here draft because they're loaded on defense, and they just got rid of a defensive tackle and got back like a first round pick for it. So they were already rotation wise stacked on the front. They could start picking up some guys, a CeeDee Lamb or somebody like that. Would fit well in San Francisco for what they want to do. But I think hopefully they learned their lesson from the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And the running game is their bread and butter. So they just need possession receivers, really. Maybe one guy that can take the top off of a defense, like a CeeDee Lamb. He'd be perfect there.
Yes.
But other than that, I think they're going to rely on what they were doing already and just stockpile young talent and just keep recycling it out before these rookie deals are over with.
Yeah.
So they got a good model. I don't think they would spend on a high-profile wide receiver right now based on what they're doing.
Yeah, this is true, and you got to remember Jalen Hurd is still in the background. He had a back injury, so he couldn't perform the way he wanted to. Deebo Samuel had a fantastic rookie season for San Francisco. So you put Jalen Hurd on the opposite side of Deebo. It's like you said, they get possession receivers. And, of course, you got George Kittle, who's an all-world tight end. All they need to do is just run the ball 500 times, and they're good.
It's like Deebo Samuel is like a old-school flanker type position.
Yeah.
Where he can play wide receiver, but he can also play running back. You can kind of move him around. They did a lot of those jet sweeps that were working great first half of the Super Bowl, and for some reason
they went away from it.
Yeah, I don't know why, but they just abandoned it, and they were gashing.
Oh yeah.
The whole first half, like it looked like they could not stop the run, and then they just went away from it. They just kind of outsmarted themselves.
Yeah.
I think this year they'll go back to that because I've always said that running the ball and stopping the run will never go out of style in football, no matter what level you play at. People always want to say, it's a passing league now and all this other stuff. Look at the past 2 or 3 Super Bowls. The team who had the better defense and could run the ball typically won the game. San Francisco should have won the Super Bowl, but they went away from what they do best.
And they should have won that going away. They should have won that going away. If they take that second interception, of Patrick Mahomes and turn it into a touchdown, Kansas City doesn't have a chance to come back. Let's go to the AFC. Phillip Rivers from the Chargers to the Colts after 15 years with the Chargers. Your thoughts on that move?
I like him at the Colts. The Colts were just missing a QB. They don't need him there for 4 or 5 years. They just need a guy to help them win now. And the Colts have a lot of cap space. I think they have the most cap space of any team in the league, if I'm not mistaken. They still got some opportunity to fill in some holes on their roster, but they've got one of the best offensive lines in football. And if Phillip Rivers can just kind of relax, trust his ability to be a top 20 quarterback in the league, with Tom Brady leaving the AFC, it kind of opens it up for 6 or 7 teams, and I would say the Colts would be one of those. A lot of people don't really know a lot about them, but they've got some talent. They've been drafting really well the past couple of years, and this team was built for Andrew Luck. Like, this should have been probably the year this year that the Colts were targeting before he retired to be like, this is our year to make our move in the AFC.
Right.
With him retiring, it's with all these parts and no QB. So I think for them, Rivers is a good, steady pick for them, but they're probably only going to be able to get about maybe a year, maybe 2 out of him. And I would not be surprised if the Colts draft a quarterback this year to sit behind Rivers for a year and to ultimately become a starter. And
I think I know who that quarterback would be. I'm going to take a stab in the dark because we don't know what's going to happen next month. We have no idea who's going to draft what, but I would think that quarterback that they would draft would be Justin Herbert out of Oregon.
He would be, actually, that would be a great pick for them. Although I've heard the Panthers are sniffing around him, a couple of other teams. He's inching up draft boards. It's going to be interesting because there's not going to be a whole lot of pro days and stuff with the coronavirus going on. So we're not going to have traditional methods to figure out who's going to go up and down these draft boards. I'll tell you the guy that I'm really hoping that the Panthers actually land at the top of the second round, but I'm afraid he's going to be gone by then, and it's Jalen Hurts. Like, from everything I've read from Matt Rule and what he likes to run from Baylor and all these other places, he loves the run-pass option, RPO. And who is better in this draft
than Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts. He was a Heisman finalist. He's a winner. He's a coach's son. So he gets, like, all the verbiage and stuff in the locker room. He's a natural leader.
Yep.
He can run the run-pass option. You put Jalen Hurts in a backfield with Christian McCaffrey, with DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, be able to do jet sweeps and take tops off of defenses, and then you go and draft somebody like Thaddeus Moss from LSU, tight end in the 3rd round. Now you're cooking with grease. Now you've got something in Carolina that you can play with for the next 5 years with Joe Brady running that offense.
Yeah.
That would be ridiculous.
It would be.
The problem is, I think there's a team out there that's going to get Jalen Hurts before Carolina at the bottom of the 1st round, and it's the New England Patriots. I really think that they would look hard at Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Because people have to follow the dots, or you connect the dots. Jalen Hurts played at Alabama for 2 years. He was a starter for Nick Saban. Who was Nick Saban close with in the NFL and worked for? Bill Belichick. They trade notes. They talk about players all the time. They give opinion on them. I guarantee you Bill Belichick has called Nick Saban and asked him questions about Jalen Hurts as soon as they realized they weren't going to re-sign Tom Brady.
Right.
Josh McDaniels, that offensive coordinator, he's got experience running run-pass option when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Tim Tebow was his quarterback.
Right.
It makes sense. He's got a whole half of a playbook he's not been able to use for 5 years. You put him in that page. The running backs that they have, and they'll go out and get some quality wide receivers. They've got a top. Jalen Hurts can come in right now and start for the Patriots, and they'd win 11 games, in my opinion.
I wouldn't doubt that. He'd be a perfect fit for them. We'll see where he goes. Desmond Johnson joining me to talk sports news, current sports news, and help everybody get through coronavirus. And I say again, and I say it at the end of every segment, please take care of yourselves. Please do the basics that would keep you alive, that would keep you well, and that would keep you moving around. Thanks a lot, DJ. Appreciate the time.
I appreciate you, man. Keep rolling, buddy.
More stuff for you in a deuce. Hey folks, Snowman here. Mark your calendars for April 20th. That's 2 weeks from now, because that's when I'm going to launch on my website the Snowman Digital Media Store. T-shirts, hats, mugs, all kinds of stuff with your favorite show logo or the Snowman Digital Media logo. That comes 2 weeks. April 20th is when the store will launch, and you can only see it on snowmandigitalmedia.com.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
I did not need to be told that.
Where true sports talk lives.
Excellent.
Can't wait. I have been waiting to get this gentleman on the program, and he's on the program right now, because the last time we tried to connect, he was on the road, and then I had to go on the road to Charlotte, but I have him now. Malik Jackson joins me. How are you, my friend?
I am doing amazing. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to have you on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to get on the show, man. I'm very, very grateful for this, and I'm very anticipated on what we're about to be speaking about.
Okay. How fast can we get the NBA back? Let me put it another way, and I mean this in fun, folks. Don't get it twisted. I mean this in fun. How fast can we get sports back?
Very much so. It's just, what is going on? It's just, being in the house, it's like you're trying to make up topics to even speak on, but it's just like, it's very, very tough during these times, man. I'll tell you that.
It really is. And we hope everybody, from the heart, we hope everybody is taking care of themselves and staying hunkered down. The social distancing moratorium, and it's a stupid term, it should be physical distancing, but let's use the words that they've given us in the immortal words of one George Carlin. The social distancing moratorium is set to expire April 30th. By God, I hope it does. But
indeed.
I've asked my guests this, and I've asked fans this. How would you devise a plan to put the NBA back in motion?
This is a great question. Just because we were coming to the end of the season, primarily, we had the last month, but it's so weird because you have so many teams in the Western Conference, that had the chance to get into the playoffs. Of course, the Rookie of the Year race with the Grizzlies and, the Pelicans. Who knows what that would have been coming to the, trying to get the 8th spot or whatever the case may be. So it's very, very interesting. And then me being here in Washington, D.C., you have the Wizards, who are about like 3 games out of being in the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference.
It's the Washington Bullets, doggone it.
Hey, and listen, I second that because I'm not going to lie, I love that name.
Bullets. I understand why they went PC. Washington going PC. That's a conversation for later. I understand why they did that. I do, okay? I joke about it a lot. But I'm old school. It's the Washington Bullets.
I know, right? I mean, that's when they actually were pretty good, with Wes Unseld and the guys.
Yes, Bobby Danridge.
At least winning one championship, they had one banner to raise, but
when they played at the Capitol Center. How about that for a memory? When they played at the Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland.
Yep. Those were good times. My mom always speaks about it all the time.
Yeah.
She speaks about all of the events that were at the Capitol Center. People loved the Capitol Center back in the day. It was so electric.
It was.
Even RFK Stadium, when the Redskins were winning their Super Bowls, you
remember the day RFK shook with the chants of, "We want Dallas. We want Dallas."
Yes. Although I'm too young to have been there or to have even heard it, my mom and my whole entire family, they're diehard Redskins fans. So, shout out to them. Shout out to my family, But
I think
like
the
you
next
said, Brian,
time, I think I know the next time I bring you on, I'll have to play "Hail to the Redskins" for you. I'll have to play it the next time I have it.
Respect. But I am not a Redskins fan, though.
What's your team?
Just so the people know.
Who's your team?
I am an Atlanta Falcons fan.
Oh,
I do like the Falcons.
Why do you like the Dirty Birds? What turned you on to the what turned you on to the Dirty Birds?
Okay, so I was flippy floppy in the earlier times of my liking teams. I was going through players, liking a certain amount of players, but I never liked a specific team. You know what I mean? So
understood.
I liked Allen Iverson for a long time. I liked Steve McNair for the Tennessee Titans. Versus Soul. But I was just bouncing around from teams, and then it was like in 2003, 2004, I started to really hone in on like who were my favorite players, and like I need a team. Like I can't keep bouncing around from team to team. And then being here in Washington, you don't really have the best of choices of teams, especially back then during the time that it was. You have the Redskins, who they might have had maybe Patrick Ramsey back then as their starting quarterback. They are one of the franchises that frequently changes up their quarterback and head coach.
True.
So it was just very inconsistent for me. So I just went about it, and I was just like, you know what? I really like Michael Vick. I really like what he's doing. I mean, he was the Allen Iverson to me of football at the time.
Yeah.
and not disputing everything he did with the dog fighting and things, you know, but he really changed his life after that. But that's needless to say.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, he was just so super talented. And so for me, I just wanted to make sure that I could narrow down my options. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be an Atlanta Falcons fan. And from there, I just kind of went with it.
Yeah. I get the same question. I'm from Chicago. And
this is Snowman
people
in the
just
morning.
assume that A, I'm a Bears fan, which I partially
Where true sports
am,
talk
and B,
lives.
I'm a Cubs fan, which I'm nowhere near.
I like him.
All right? I'm
He's
all about
silly.
the White Sox, and I have been for most of my life. But my first favorite team, they had a fellow by the name of Joe Montana as their quarterback, and of course I'm speaking of the San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl this past year, and I the night of the NFC Championship, and I've never told this story on air, and I'm going to right now. The night of the NFC Championship, when they played the Green Bay Packers, I was sitting here in my chair, and I was glued to the chair and to the television. And my wife walks past me, and she says, "You know the 49ers are going to win, right?" I said, "Honey, I hope you're right." She finds a way to cheer me up when I'm nervous as all get out. And then Raheem Mostert scored that first touchdown. Part of my brain is thinking, okay, game over. I can relax.
Mm-hmm.
My wife walks past me and she says, "Finally, I see you in football mode and not football/journalist mode." And I fell out laughing.
It's a difference.
Fell out. It's a big difference. When she said that, I fell out laughing. And she just sees me going nuts, and she just walks up to me just as calm as ever and looks up at me, and she goes, "You are okay, right?" I love her dearly, especially when we tease each other about our teams. But back to the original question before I decided to take a trip to Tangent City with you concerning the Atlanta Falcons. How would you bring the NBA back?
Okay, well, bringing it back, I think that they should start out by seeing how physically. I mean, I feel kind of bad for the players because you've seen the Greek Freak come out and say he doesn't have access to a hoop. A lot of these players are going to come back being rusty.
Yeah.
And they might not have the same type of momentum. I mean, you're talking about every single day you're practicing, you're getting shots up, and every other day you're either in another city traveling to a game or you're in team meetings. You're knowing what the agenda is for the next game, the game plan. You know what I mean? So not being around your coaches, not saying that they possibly I guess that would be kind of tampering. I mean, if you're talking to your coaches still, but I mean, I guess not. But, you know, in terms of that, it's just like that's going to be the most difficult thing. But I feel like they might have to either have a selective number of games for the teams and the echelon who need to get into great playoff seeding, meaning, I guess, only have a couple of games. But there's so many teams that actually have the chance to make it to the playoffs. So it's like you have to play out the rest of the games, or at least the rest of the regular season. And what are we, like 67 games around that mark or something like that, around that mark. So it's probably like 15 more games to go. And so I guess that you can play at least those games out. I don't know how you get the people. You probably would have to play without people if Adam Silver is wanting to rush back, because this epidemic, which everybody should stay home and stay safe.
Yes, please.
I really don't think that there will be any fans, let alone media, anything of that nature at the games. But then it's like, what is the excitement going to come from? This is really weird for me. I don't know how they're going to bring it back, but for Adam Silver to come out when President Trump called everybody and, you know, to all of the commissioners and were asking, what do you think about it? For him being the NBA commissioner, for him to come out, he's ready to get back because he understands that the lack of productivity from the players and the lack of movement from the players and the teams and the coaches, it's going to hinder the rest of the season. No matter if you were the number one seed being the Los Angeles Lakers or being the worst team in the league, you're literally not going to have any type of momentum. So, well, I don't know. LeBron posts, he's on Instagram all the time posting him working out and being with the kids and stuff. So, LeBron, he's putting in work.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
But, for the other cats that don't have the chance to actually get to a gym or anything like that, I just think that it's going to be rusty. But in terms of them bringing back the NBA, I think that would be the best bet as far as the fairness for the other teams who can actually have the chance to get to the playoffs. You get what I mean? Because if you don't give them that chance, it's like this season is kind of like in shambles because you took away the momentum of so many teams. I think that's the biggest thing for me, the momentum. Because certain teams were filling a stride. You had Bradley Beal playing phenomenally before this happened. He was dropping he's second in the league right now in points. So, he was hitting a stride. He saw that they could get to the 8th seed. These teams who are at the 9th and 10th in both conferences, they're wanting to hit that stride. So I think that the NBA has to do something to include those teams to make sure that everything is equal and fair for everybody that wants to be in the playoff picture.
Here's a question, and one of my earlier guests brought this up, and I really believe it can happen. Given the state of the pandemic and how leagues are trying to find ways to either restart or start their season, Major League Baseball, can we institute something Major League Baseball instituted in the form of a wild card game, like 8 versus 9? Would that be a good idea?
That's interesting. Being though that the NBA wanted to include a tournament inside of the seasons coming, as a proposal, that's interesting to me because who knows? For most teams, if you're not if you don't have players as talented on your team, it's like you're already going into the season not wanting to be a lackluster team or not wanting to tank per se, quote unquote, because, a lot of teams, they want to tank. And I listened to the All the Smoke podcast with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes, and they were speaking about, how they were in the league and they wouldn't put them inside of games. Well, Steven Jackson, to be exact. And he was just like, why am I even here? Like, I want to be on a contending team. So you deal with that a lot of the times, and it's a lot of, player circumstantial. But anyway, back to the question. I just feel like that might be an interesting idea just because it's so much time missed. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that would be the best possible ordeal if not you play out the games. Because a tournament is just like, bam. You're actually getting your chance to possibly get in the playoffs. I don't know if they might include the 10th seed because they might want to do that, but the 8 and the 9, at least you're having a chance to battle it out. You know what I mean? It's not like you giving up on the entire season per se,
right?
Because you really were trying to get to the playoffs, and there's a lot of teams were pushing. I don't know the statistics of the last 5 or 10 games, but when you look at that, it's just like, I don't know. I think that it will be interesting to see, definitely, but it's definitely would be doable, in my opinion. I think that would be something that Adam Silver could look at and definitely ponder on, because you're already talking about having a mid-season tournament. So why not implement it right now? Not a tournament per se, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Malik Jackson joining me here on the program. How would you do the same? How would you institute the return of the NHL? Let's have some fun here. How would you institute the return of the NHL?
So with the NHL, I feel like it's just different. I feel like it's a different league. I feel like just the peers are different. They weren't that many coronavirus. There weren't that many players that tested positive for the coronavirus.
True.
Yeah, you had some trainers maybe, but no, it wasn't a lot of players. I mean, you had a couple of Ottawa Senators, you had a Colorado Avalanche player, but it wasn't like the NBA where you had Detroit, you had LA, you had multiple teams that had interacted with teams. You had the Jazz that had played the Nets, and then of course, that came out with Kevin Durant. So it's like you had actual players that were very, very sick, and not just one player. It was multiple players. So it was like, with the NBA trying to rush to get back to things, I guess they're just saying, like, we'll just jump start it. But with the NHL, you have a lot of players, like, for one of the teams that I write articles for, the Washington Capitals, you have Nicholas Backstrom saying, if we have to go into the summer, let's do it. Like, it's multiple players coming out. Connor McDavid is saying, like, if we have to go into the summertime, let's do it. Like, you don't want to go through an entire season without getting that privilege of hoisting up the Stanley Cup.
Right.
So it's just like, these teams are actually working so hard, and then, you know, a little bit of the fan in me wants the regular season to come back just because Alex Ovechkin is on the brink of having another 50-goal season.
Yeah.
So I'm just, like, eager to see him get that accomplishment again, just because he's chasing Wayne Gretzky, you know? So
right.
It just really sucks right now. I mean, the time period of things, and I'm not going to say
lost.
in regard.
The game's lost.
Exactly. I'm not going to say that it sucks in regards to, you know, the teams not needing to be around people, but just the accomplishments of some of these players who worked through the off season, you know, being very, very, very diligent in their off season productivity. So it's just like, give them something. You know, the NHL, I felt like he's going to do something, the NHL commissioner, Dave. I don't know. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow. I think if the NBA does implement it first, then the other pro sports leagues will start to, you know, they will start to join force. But until somebody comes back from it, and depending on what President Trump says about it, it's going to be a toss-up for me. But I'm eager for the NHL to get back. But I don't think it's going to get back until the summertime because players are willing to wait out, and these are star players. You get what I mean? So I think they'll come during the summertime. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
Because this pandemic it's really taking a toll on the world at this point. But U.S. has the most quote unquote cases, and I just think that people should stay safe.
Wimbledon canceled.
Yeah.
The Masters postponed / canceled. U.S. Open gone. NHL, all the sports leagues on hold for right now. The threat of no All-Star game in Major League Baseball. I mean, to say that this pandemic, this coronavirus pandemic, has the sports world in a vice grip would be a horrible, horrible understatement. Canadian Football League delaying the start of the season. WNBA delaying the start of the season. This is serious. You want everyone to be safe. And fans like myself, who are also journalists, the fan side of me is coming out and saying, hey, can we get some sports back? But at the same time, I'm also saying, stay safe, everybody. And I'm going to continue to say that as my habit. Go to work, come home, crank up and do the show. But we want everyone, if you have to stay home, please stay home. But let's talk some more sports here. Malik Jackson joining me here on the program. Are you a Nationals fan?
I am a Nationals fan.
Good.
Funny thing is, I never been big on baseball, so it's crazy.
You will when I get finished.
I'm sorry. What is it? I couldn't hear you.
You will when I get finished. No, I'm just kidding.
Respect. But it's funny. The past 2 years, you know, I saw them play, and I've been going to games and stuff. Haven't had the chance to cover them or anything yet, but that's coming in the near future, of course. I'm praying up for that opportunity to come. And I saw them play terribly, of course, last season. They were playing terrible in the first 50, and then I just saw them just erupt. And that's when I really started to pay attention. But the previous years before that, you know, the Bryce Harper years, I was paying attention seldomly, went to games and stuff, but never really focused in on baseball. And so it was just a joy for me to just see Trey Turner, to see Anthony Rendon, and Juan Soto, who I believe is going to be one of the best baseball players for the next coming years, because that guy,
that kid,
has ice in his veins. He is amazing. And then, of course, the Soto shuffle when he's at the plate. I mean, this guy is a stud as a teenager. I mean, he was a teenager doing these things. You know what I mean? That's unthinkable in the history of baseball. You know, we had Bryce Harper do it, but he broke Bryce Harper's record. So I was just like, wow. So, yeah, it was really hot. It was really good to see. I was actually down in Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., where the ballpark is, and I was there for every single playoff. I mean, every single thing. It was so electric. You know, when Washington, D.C. sports actually does good, the fans here are probably one of the best fan bases, period. I mean, the Redskins have the most fans out of the DMV, of course, but they haven't been good for years. So it's like when you have the Capitals doing good, shout out to the Mystics. A lot of people forget about the WNBA a lot, but the Mystics.
I don't. I've covered the WNBA for years. I've covered the WNBA since the Chicago Sky made their first appearance in the WNBA Finals. I was covering them even a couple of years before then. But I want to give you a little present here. Here's one reason why I'm a fan of the Nationals. I will always love my hometown team, the Chicago White Sox. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I got a couple of reasons why I love the Nationals. They're just a gritty team, and one of my favorite announced teams is Charlie Slows and Dave Jagler. Here's the clip I led off my Halloween episode of Snowman in the Morning with, and my Halloween episode of the Daily BS with. This is courtesy of WJFK, and, well, just listen.
As the Nationals are a strike away from franchise history and some World Series history. As Hudson tries to close it out. It'll be another 3-2 pitch.
Hello.
To Michael Brantley.
Right here.
Hudson sets.
Just.
The kick in. Here it comes. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
I had to throw that World Series call in there, folks. Okay, let's see a WK. Charlie Slows, Dave Jagler doing the honors. You want to talk about excitement?
Man,
I saw a video online of Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals celebrating.
I mean, you're talking about a celebration. I don't think a Stanley Cup winner, or excuse me, a Stanley Cup champion team has celebrated like that. I mean, the joy of Alex Ovechkin, the joy of him actually finally getting through the Penguins and winning the Stanley Cup was just the biggest deal for him, because that was the only thing that was holding over his, you know, he was already solidified as a Hall of Famer from his rookie year when he did the falling down goal. And then he broke the record for the most goals scored by a left winger in the season. I mean, he's already had the attributes, the accolades, every single thing. But once he won that Stanley Cup, it was just like, whew,
he let it go.
Weight is just lifted.
It was, you know, a Stanley Cup matchup. We'll close with this. You know, a Stanley Cup matchup I would love to see, and I'll just do it by players. Alex Ovechkin on one side and Patrick Kane on another side.
Oh, my goodness. We talked about this, remember? we talked about this.
I want to see Alex Ovechkin and Patrick Kane have a duel for Lord Stanley. I want to see that one year, man.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, you're talking about the two of this generation, of course.
Yes.
The two most dominant athletes in the NHL.
And prolific scorers.
And not to put anything past, I actually like Jonathan Taves more than Patrick Kane. I love Patrick Kane, but Jonathan Taves as the captain,
I love Taves.
Every Game 7,
I love
he
Taves.
Always scores.
Yeah,
I love
He's
Taves
never
so much.
not scored in a Game 7. And the Anaheim Ducks will hate Jonathan Taves for years if you go back to 2015 when Taves opened the scoring not once but twice, and then Patrick Kane got in on the fun. Marian Hossa got in on the fun of a 5-2 final. But, man.
Oh, yeah.
Ovechkin versus Taves on a face-off.
Oh my goodness, it would be crazy. And let's not forget Nicholas Backstrom or Kuznetsov. You know, the Capitals are just loaded, man.
Yep.
And it's crazy to me that but the Blackhawks. My thing is, I went to school in Wisconsin, so Wisconsin doesn't have a hockey team, so you have a lot of Minnesota Wild fans at my school. You have a lot of Chicago Blackhawks fans at my school. So I had a bunch of fans that would come at me when I was wearing my Ovechkin and Nicholas Backstrom jerseys on campus. So they'll be coming at me. They'll be like, "Man, what are you doing?" And I can't say anything, absolutely nothing to the Blackhawks fans. Like, I'm just like, I had to hold my tongue a lot as a fan, But I'm always, as a journalist, when I'm reporting, when I would go onto the news, as an anchor or whatever, I'll always go through it, but I'll always shout out and I'll always say, like, yo, we actually had a lot of people on campus today wearing Blackhawks jerseys. But every single time I see a Minnesota Wild fan, I can absolutely talk, because every single time Alex Ovechkin plays them, he scores a hat trick. It's like anytime he goes to XL Center up there in Minnesota, he literally scores a hat trick, and it's crazy to me. Like, I feel like he has like a target on his calendar for certain teams and circles it. Like, okay, I'm going to try to get a hat trick on this team, and then there's certain teams, of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins,
Chicago Blackhawks. Yep, he has
Chicago.
He has those dates. He has those dates circled, but it's the same way with the Blackhawks, with Taves and Kane and Duncan Keith and those guys. They have certain dates. They have certain dates scheduled. I mean, we played y'all in a winter classic. Look, it shouldn't have been a winter classic. It should have been a Stanley Cup final. I want one day. I want 1 year to have the Washington Capitals and the Chicago Blackhawks face off in the Stanley Cup Finals. The closest we got was when we faced the Boston Bruins in 2013.
And Boston had a great team. They had a great team.
Yep. But
an amazing team.
I want the Washington Capitals. I want Alex O on the other side of the face-off line when we get back to the Stanley Cup final. I want to see the Washington Capitals.
Oh, it'll happen. It'll definitely happen. I feel like Ovechkin has not a lot more years, not a lot of years left, but he definitely has a lot of juice in his tank. I mean, he has 48 goals right now, which is outrageous.
It is outrageous.
It's absolutely outrageous that he has 48 goals. He continues to be dominant every single season. I mean, it's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me that nobody can stop this guy. He's on the left circle every single game.
Yep.
He shoots from the same spot. The velocity of his shot is just crazy that nobody can stop him. He's getting older and better. I mean, if you look at the stats, he scored more goals in the first 41 games of the season than he did when he scored 65 goals, even though he doesn't keep up the same type of momentum through the season.
It's just like he comes out
at a high rate.
It's just times he comes out of nowhere where he has a streak of like scoring 2 goals in 7 straight games or something ridiculous like that.
Right? It's ridiculous.
And I match up Ovechkin and Kane because Kane could have the same kind of run. And I go back to 2013 against the Los Angeles Kings in Game 5 of the Western Finals. And before you knew it, Patrick Kane had a hat trick. And the game winner was the hat trick goal. It's ridiculous.
The dude is wild.
It was ridiculous. And I was up so late that night. I was listening to the WGN call with John Weideman, and it was so funny. I'm trying not to disturb my mom. Okay, so I have my headphones on. I wanted to go downstairs and watch it, but if I crept downstairs, my mom would ask, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, all right, I gotta find a way to get away with this. So what I did was I took my computer. My mom heard me go downstairs, and of course I get the "What are you doing?" I said, "I have a project to work on, and I will be back upstairs in a little bit." Mom fell asleep. I went in right in the back, turned on my computer, put the Weideman call in my ears, and I had the NBC broadcast in front of me. And when Patrick Kane scored that game winner in double overtime, I had to go outside, way in the backyard, and scream at the top of my lungs. I was that happy.
That is hilarious. Let me see. I'll try to think of a time where I did that. Let me see. It sucks with my teams. You know, like I told you that like I said, NBA, I like the Rockets.
Yep.
NHL, Capitals. Falcons with the NFL.
Yep.
NCAA basketball men's. I do like Georgetown and the Merlin Terps. I stay home with that. And vice versa with women's basketball. Love the Terps.
Yep.
But it's just I don't have those type of moments where I can just say, "Wow, we went to a double OT game." Because it's usually I'm usually on the other side of the set. I'm usually the team that's going home sad. Getting on the metro, walking home, like, wow, we really just lost the game. Double overtime at home. We had a winning regular season, and of course, we choked. It's usually I'm on that verge of it, but
it's usually a what the hell happened kind of situation.
Absolutely. You're like, we had the best record in the NHL, we had the best record in the NFC South, we had the best record in the Western Conference. And we fall short. It's like every single time.
Then 2018 should be a royal pain for you when it came to the Rockets, because you win 65 games. You had I got to. You had the Warriors on the ropes. You had them on the ropes. All you had to do was take care of business for 24 minutes in that nut house we like to call Oracle Arena, and I'm getting ready to burst out into laughter here because I know many Rockets fans like you, but at least you're real about it, okay? There are so many Rockets fans you and I both know that look through rose-colored glasses. You and I both know them, or have seen them, I beg your pardon. But you get blown out, you get outscored in the second half 64-25. In the second half of Game 6, and it's so quiet in Texas, you could hear a pin drop through the old Summit or the Toyota Center. But then, Rockets fans spring eternal hope. We got them in our house for Game 7. Once again, big lead at halftime. Then Kevin Durant woke up.
I don't know, man. I would say this. Listen, I would say this as a loyal Rockets fan.
Yeah.
Loyal fan.
Right.
I would say that in terms of the I can't remember how the consecutive threes that they shot and missed.
27.
The coaching.
I'll never forget that number. 27.
I don't understand it from a Mike D'Antoni's point of view. I understand that's what got us there.
Yep.
And I understand we don't have our point guard to lead the floor, our floor general, who, messed up his hamstring. Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards to play in the NBA. But
we'll debate that later.
James Harden. You have James Harden.
Yeah.
And Trevor Ariza was taking threes. Nobody was going to the rim. It was absolutely atrocious.
Why was PJ Tucker taking threes? Why was Eric Gordon taking threes when he needed to be a rim protector? And he was a rim protector.
I don't know.
He was a rim protector that got bullied by JaVale McGee.
Come on, man. And then you had even hell, you might as well just say that Clint Capella was shooting three. I mean, absolutely, he would have had a better chance to make 1 3. I mean, come on.
And Clint Capella got bullied. He got bullied by Clay. He got bullied by
entire
Steph.
Season.
He got bullied. He got bullied by Draymond Green. I mean, even Zaza Pachulia snuck a few elbows in. And by that time, Pachulia was at the end of the bench. You know that. You know that.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was at the end of the bench. Zaza was at the end of the bench, and JaVale, I had a chance to see JaVale play at Hales Franciscan High School in Chicago. Amazing athlete. Mm-hmm. Okay? I'm glad the Warriors gave him a chance for him to really shine and be the player that he was supposed to be.
Absolutely. And, for my second team, being a Wizards fan here in D.C., he started here with the Wizards, me. And he had those spurts of showing that he could actually be a dominant center.
Yep.
And then he just, I don't know, he took a downward spiral a little bit.
And he was never in the right system. He was never in the right rotation. He was with Steve Kerr and the Warriors. He was in the right rotation and with the right team. But the Rockets, for 2 consecutive second halves, Games 6 and 7, 2018 West Finals, they talked about being the bullies. They got bullied.
Indeed.
They got bullied. And a year after that, against a shorthanded Warriors team.
Man,
why did you wake a sleeping giant? Y'all were talking so much stuff at halftime, and you didn't realize, oh, Lord, the Warriors are within striking distance without Steph scoring. Okay? Steph didn't score a point in the first half. Rockets were happy. Why didn't y'all contain Andre Iguodala, the ultimate sixth man?
Right. It just, listen, and this is like I said, it loops back around to me being on that other side of the losing column. On the other side of the winning column. I'm literally always sulking, and my girlfriend would tell you, she literally has to hold me up. My family will call me. I'll post that. I will go hiatus on every social media because I know I'm going to get it from my friends as a fan. But then when you have to go on the radio and you have to get on TV and talk about this with your peers, shout out to Alex and shout out to Jake. We had our Sports Hub show and we had to talk about these losses, and I mean, it's just, it's kind of disheartening at times. It's like, why do I have to go through the pain? I'm looking at every single game, devoted, taking down stats, taking down every single thing about the game that I'm taking away. Every single impression I'm seeing from James Harden during the regular season. It's amazing. But then when it gets to the palms getting sweaty in the last 2 minutes or the last 12 minutes of the fourth quarter, it's just like they don't know what they don't know what
fold like they fold like a tent with a hole in it. They fold like a tent with a hole in it. You know it. I know it. They fold like a tent with a hole in it. You know that.
Unfortunately, man. Unfortunately.
And here's the biggest. Look, I'll ask the question again. 2019 West Semifinals, Game 6, Dubs up 3-2. Rockets hanging with the Warriors. And the Rockets failed to realize that the Warriors were within 5 at halftime because the stupidest defensive mistake they kept making. Two of them. They didn't guard Klay Thompson, and they sure as hell didn't guard Andre Iguodala.
No, they didn't.
Why?
They didn't. But I give a lot of credit to Steve Kerr and the coaching staff because they might not pull out everything in the first half. Meaning the plays that they run. I know it's a lot of down screens, a lot of up screens. You have a lot of movement. I mean, that's their bread and butter.
That's what they do.
Period.
Yep, that's what they do.
You know what I mean? It's very unguardable, especially having Durant there during those 3 seasons. It was just like, what are you going to do? You're trying to contain Stephen Curry. You're trying to contain Klay Thompson, who both are probably one of the greatest shooters combos ever, which they probably are.
Splash Brothers.
And it's just like
it's like James Harden and Russell Westbrook now are trying to be what the Splash Brothers have been since the Splash Brothers been in the league.
Facts. But they're two different players. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like with Russell, and let me say this: with this season, which we're talking about, wanting it to come back, I'm not gonna lie. I do like this season the way that Russell Westbrook has taken on just, I mean, in the beginning of the season, I was actually at the game when they played the Wizards.
Why'd you put yourself through that?
I'm sorry. What did you say? What did you say?
I said, why did you put yourself through that?
Look, it was a great game. It was a great one.
I'll repeat my question. Why'd you put yourself through that?
I can't. I gotta go.
It's the Wizards and the Rockets.
Yeah, it was, and like I said, it was a game that was very close, which was kind of.
When was that? What was that game? Early part of the year.
Yes, it was October 30th, I believe, and it was the same day.
That explains a lot. That the Nationals won it all. October 30th, of course.
Same day.
Same day the Nats won it all. And I mean this kiddingly because I've wasted my time at bad games too, and I know yours wasn't a bad game. Same day the Nats win it all, you were in Capital One Arena watching that? And I'm teasing you mercilessly like that. I'll say it again. I've covered my share of dogs for games. I covered my share. Over the course of 24 years, I've covered my share. Lord knows I've covered my share. I mean, by God, I was forced to cover a Cubs game.
Oh, my goodness.
I was forced to go into Wrigley Field.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, was this during, of course, the down years? But, wow. They were getting whooped. They were getting blown out.
They were getting embarrassed.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
They were getting embarrassed. Okay. Okay. I'll close.
Look,
yeah.
You
talked
had
about.
To catch yourself right there.
Yeah, I have to. But I'm not going to catch myself with this. I'll close with this story, and I've told this several times on this program. November 2nd, 2016 is a day I never want to repeat. I was living in LaPorte, Indiana, which is about an hour away from Chicago, and I was surrounded by Cub fans. And it was Game 7 of the World Series that night. I ran every errand I could run during the day because the first pitch was scheduled for 8 o'clock. I didn't want to come out of my house. I didn't want to come out of my apartment because should the Cubs, and this is what I was thinking, should the Cubs do the impossible and erase the curse, I will never hear the end of it. I must have holed up in my room with about 3 pizzas, a case of beer, and eternal prayer and hope that somehow Cleveland wins. And I was so prepared. I was so prepared to go on to my show the next day and say, congratulations, Cleveland Indians, Major League Baseball champions 2016. That statement kept playing in my mind and playing in my mind and playing in my mind. And I said, okay, I can do this. Then the last out happened.
I'm sorry. I remember that game.
Then the last out happened. And I am hiding in my room for the next 2 days.
Oh, my goodness. Literally, too?
Literally. I mean, people were shooting off their guns in celebration. I had a ton of messages on my social media from Cub fans, real ones and supposed ones. It's like the Caps getting eliminated by the Pittsburgh Penguins coming back from 3 games to 1 down.
Oh, my goodness. Come on.
That's the best. Look, that's the best comparison I can make, all right? That's the best way I can compare this.
I got you. That hurts. Trust me. I know.
Look, I told you, I was prepared. I was prepared to say, congratulations, Cleveland Indians. Okay? I wouldn't have minded. I wouldn't have minded that. I'll never say congratulations Cleveland Cavaliers for 2016 because the Warriors got screwed, but that's a conversation for another time.
Facts.
Oh, and I hate to put Steve Harvey in the middle of this, but I gotta use a phrase of his. When the Cubs won the World Series, and even my stomach's churning right now as I say that sentence, even though it was 4 years ago. When the last out happened and I heard the call, my next 3 words were, "Oh, hell no."
Oh my goodness! Trust me, I'm telling you. Come on.
You know this feeling quite well. I know you do. But when the team
28-3. Man, trust me, I've been through it, man. Been through it.
That winning touchdown happened in Super Bowl 51, and I can just see the look on your face, and you're looking and going, "Oh, hell no."
I shed a tear. I'm not going to lie. I'm a man, but I shed a tear, man. It was that. It was like I was it was like a dream that you've been waiting for so long. And it's in the first half, and then it just like every time Tom Brady got the ball, it was like, oh, okay. It was just like, oh, okay. And then the Julian Edelman catch, and then I knew. I was just like, yeah, this is over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's over. I was like,
I couldn't put up with that Super Bowl. I just couldn't. Because
oh my goodness.
It was 28-3. I was half tempted to turn it off. I was half tempted. I do not kid when I say this. I was half tempted to turn the game off. But to borrow a cartoon phrase, my spider senses kept tingling. My spider senses kept tingling. I had a big screen TV. I had the feed going to the TV from my laptop. My spider senses kept tingling. Don't you turn the channel. Something stupid is going to happen.
Indeed it did.
And I know you've been through this as a journalist and as a fan. You keep arguing with yourself. You're going, man, there's no way. Oh, hell, that's Tom Brady. Nah, he can't. Yes, he can. I better not move.
And it's funny because the same predicament of you waking up and having a lot of text messages, it was worse for me. It was that night. And I just was heartbroken. Like, I can't really, it's something you can't put into words. It's
right.
Just, I tell people, to the guests that are on Mr. Brian Show's show, excuse me, let me just say this. Let me say this. I just want to say the only person that actually knew what my feeling was my college roommate, because we watched it in our dorm room together.
Oh, no.
He's the only person that knows exactly my facial expressions and my emotions throughout that entire game. My friends left out of the room because they were like, "Congratulations, police." Then they left. They said, my uncle called me. He said he turned the game off, took a nap, woke up, and found out that the Falcons lost. Like, I was getting so many instances of people calling me and saying, like, I fell asleep or I turned the game off to cut something else on. And then he searched on Google that the score was 28-28. He was like, what? Man, I would never hold that down until they win the Super Bowl, man. But I don't know. It's tough now that Brady came to the Bucs, right? He would come to the Buccaneers, right? He would come into the conference, right?
Listen. I'm a 49er fan and will be for life. But every time they played the New York Giants in an NFC championship game or an NFC playoff game, I had nothing but respect because I love Bill Parcells. Okay? Giants beat us in 90 at Candlestick Park, 15-13, 1-0 but field goals. I got nothing but respect for that. I got nothing but respect for Bill Parcells, and I got a hell of a lot of respect for Tom Coughlin and the game plan he put together to beat the 49ers in Candlestick Park in 2011. I got no qualms standing up and applauding because on both of those occasions, they were hellified NFC championship games. And I was happy either way with the Giants or the 49ers getting a shot at Tom Brady. That's a conversation for later. But when you have that shot at Tom Brady and you're up 28-3, why didn't y'all run the football?
I don't know.
I could ask the same question of my young 49ers team now, but this is a young 49er team, and they're going to have many more shots to get it right. Okay?
Sure,
and I'm saying, I'm telling y'all right now, do not place the blame on anyone in the San Francisco organization. Yes, play calling comes into play, but at the same time, this is a very young 49er ball club that ran into a buzzsaw with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I love me some Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I love Patrick Mahomes. I love Patrick Mahomes.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I'm going to say this right now, and I know this is early, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a part 2 with Jimmy Garoppolo and Patrick Mahomes in Tampa. I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there.
That's a bold statement.
I do not see anyone, Tom Brady included. I mean, love you, Tom Brady, but to be the champs, you have to beat the champs. And I don't see Tampa Bay doing it. I don't see Tampa Bay coming to Levi's Stadium and getting out of there without that defense harassing them for 60 minutes. If they can harass if they can harass Aaron Rodgers for 60 minutes, and they did it twice, what makes you think they won't harass Tom Brady?
Oh, absolutely. And Tampa Bay's line is not better than New England's line either. So let's put that out there. They're not. They're just not. And you saw what happened last year.
Yep.
I mean,
it's atrocious. It's atrocious.
It's just terrible. And I mean, he did not have as many weapons as he will have with Chris Goodwin and Mike Evans and the tight end. Where is their tight end's name?
They got two good. They got two good tight ends. Okay, but what's missing in that offensive package? It's the same offense. Thank you. It's a running game. I don't care how good of weapons you have. And this is what cost San Francisco against Baltimore in Super Bowl 47. Frank Gore should have touched the football 35 times. Period. He would have worn that Baltimore defense down. I understand Kaepernick was the flavor of the month, just like Jimmy Garoppolo was the flavor of the month, and I this is the only time you will hear me say I hate the 49ers, but I hate them from going away from the running game, but I believe that's going to be a lesson for later. Why did Atlanta go away from their running game against Tom Brady? Why didn't y'all use the clock to keep him off the field? I mean, Tom Brady did the impossible and threw a pick six in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Robert Alford, right?
Yep.
Running back. Robert Alford.
I mean, he was
so long. I'm
strutting.
Glad he's gone. He was getting burned for so many years. Yeah,
he got boinked. Let's say it right. He got boinked. He didn't get burned. He didn't get burned. He got boinked. I'm sounding like my grandfather, who's from Macomb, Mississippi. He got boinked 300 times over. Okay, but why did it? When I had to deal, your Super Bowl loss with your Falcons is the same thing I had to deal with when the Cubs won the World Series.
Absolutely. I definitely, I'm telling you, like.
And social media is ruthless.
So much.
Social media is ruthless.
Man.
Because I had so many people. I had so many people texting me, sending me messages, and they're just going, well, how about those Cubbies? Shut up. I can repeat every conversation you had with your friends after watching the Falcons give up a 28-3 lead. Hey, how about that Patriot comeback? Shut up.
Absolutely.
Hey, how about Tom Brady throwing for 463 yards? How about me giving you 5 across your lips?
Right? That's that type of echelon that I was talking about. Like, that's the echelon I was coming at with. I'm just like, look, you cannot come at me the next morning because they know how loyal we are, son.
And they
know how we are.
And they unload. They empty. How do you put it? They emptied the chamber. They emptied the chamber.
Absolutely.
They emptied the chamber. You know and I know it. They emptied the chamber. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? And look, sports is great, okay? We're going through a pandemic right now, but we have so many memories that we can call upon too, and it just makes you even more excited when the pandemic is gone and sports comes back and you make even more memories, okay? But you have your teams, you have your players. My teams being the Chicago White Sox, being the San Francisco 49ers, and for my beautiful baby girl Donna, and for my beautiful wife Dr. K, the Indianapolis Colts. My hometown team for NFL is the Chicago Bears. My basketball teams that I cover and follow religiously are the Golden State Warriors, the San Antonio Spurs, and of course the Chicago Bulls. Some guy named Michael Jordan played there for 13 years.
Yes, he did.
And the way we feel when we had to face the Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boys, you go in with hope eternal, but then they find a way to beat you, and you're like, damn it, how'd they do it this time?
Right.
You're going, how did they do this one? How'd they do this?
Man.
You're just sitting there dumbfounded. When we played the Pistons in '89, after the shot against Cleveland, beating the Knicks in 6 games, you get the Detroit Pistons. MJ has a miracle in Game 3. We're up 2-1. And then let me just say it honestly, as a fan and as a journalist, for the next 3 games, they kicked our ass.
Oh my goodness!
I love that Bad Boys team. I respect the hell out of them, and I love them, given the way the NBA is now. Okay.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. When you look at the NBA now, you get a ticky-tack little blow. Somebody blows in your ear. Hey, if Lance Stevenson blows in LeBron's ear now, it's a technical. It's a technical. It's a technical. Anything that happens on the
anything that happens to LeBron is a technical foul, and he flops more than a fish out of San Diego's water. True or false? He flops
true.
He flops more than. Listen, the 2 biggest floppers in the NBA right now are James Harden and LeBron James. Period. They flop more they flop more than goldfish being pulled out of a tank.
James is definitely very theatrical with his fouls, but he does get hacked, and LeBron does too. I think sometimes they get kind of pissed off because they might. Well, LeBron doesn't, but James gets calls. James gets his calls. LeBron sometimes doesn't get calls. Like every time he drives,
they both also travel a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll never forget when LeBron traveled against the Washington Wizards in the playoffs about his second season. He was under the paint and he kicked it out to, I believe it was Damian Jones, and he hit the corner 3.
Yep.
Man, that was heartbroken. He definitely traveled a couple of times in that game, but you know, it was the young king at the time, so they didn't.
He ain't the king.
They didn't want Gilbert, but I mean Gilbert missed the free throws, man.
Look,
so
he ain't the king. I've said it on
That's
this
true.
show. He ain't the king, because for me, growing up, I've delved into my research. Okay, if you really want to appoint a true king of basketball, you appoint it to Bill Russell.
Rings.
Yep. But if you want to really appoint a king, taking rings out of the equation, it's the guy who originated number 23. But he won't say that about himself because, in Michael Jordan's words, it's disrespectful to the ones that preceded them. And I agree.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree.
Absolutely.
It's a great argument for us, but for the guys that actually step between the lines, come on now. You can do nothing but respect those words. It's a great argument of who is really the king. But when I'm watching a Pistons Bulls game from '89, the East Finals, and they get an offensive, and this is in the first quarter, they get an offensive rebound, and it comes back out to Jordan, who's about 24 feet away, and before he launches, Brent Musburger, love Brent Musburger, says, "And here's the king." You're like, whoa.
And then people also forget this, Brian. The guy literally sat out in his prime for 2 seasons.
Yep.
In his prime. And, I mean, you account for all the statistical categories that LeBron will surpass eventually, but that means he has to play a certain amount of minutes, which he's doing this year. He's saying that he doesn't want to, not play in the game. He doesn't want load management. It's like LeBron has been granted these accessibilities that were not ample at the time when Jordan was in the league. It's just a different generation of basketball. The NBA is just totally different from when Jordan was playing. I mean, the physicality, we just spoke about it. It was just totally different. I mean, when it comes into terms of that, I really don't have anything else to say because we know at the end of the day who the best is of all time. And it's really no argument. You know what I mean? People can say the stats, which LeBron has. He has the stats,
does.
So
the difference is LeBron played 17 years. MJ in his prime played 13. Same with Tom Brady and Joe Montana. And I'll say Tom Brady and Joe Montana are 1A and 1A all day long. Okay? Brady has 6 rings. Montana has 4. Montana hasn't thrown a Super Bowl interception, nor has he lost in the Super Bowl. Brady has. Okay? But by numbers alone, Montana and Brady are 1A and 1A. They revolutionized the game in their own way, in their own era. It's an unfair comparison in any sport. In any sport, it's an unfair comparison. But come on.
Yeah. I feel you on that, Brian.
When you see that tongue hanging out of MJ's, and he's getting ready to do something ignorant to his opponent.
I mean, it's just the heart. I feel like I always look at heart in players, just their approach to the game. How do they come out? And when you have multiple players doing interviews, in their retirement stages and saying that Michael Jordan would sit on his car with a cigar waiting for the other team to get off of their buses coming into the United Center.
Yep.
It's just kind of demising. You're seeing this guy just sit there and say what he's going to do to you.
And he would do it.
You he's going to score 40 or 50, and he's doing it. And that's just the type of player he was. It's a different type of level.
It is.
Different type of level.
It's so funny when you see that MJ, like you said, MJ dressed in a suit with his suspenders on, smoking a cigar, sitting on the hood of his car. Sitting on the hood of his car. I've seen it when he played at Chicago Stadium. Yep, on the hood of his car. I've seen it when he played at Chicago Stadium. Lord knows I've seen it when he played at the United Center, because I had a chance to cover a couple Jordan games at the UC, which is a thrill in and of itself.
I know that was crazy. I know it was.
You talk about the height of the NBA. The height of the NBA occurred in two stages. Since I've been watching it since 1980, the height of the NBA for me occurred in two stages: Magic and Bird, and Jordan. I mean, my first favorite player, and I'll say this till the day I die, my first favorite player is Julius Erving. And I love Dr. J.
Dr. J.
I love Julius Erving. I have a lot of old Sixer games when they played at the Spectrum, and I got a lot of Bulls games when they played at Chicago Stadium. But when Dr. J came in and I loved watching him play, Michael Jordan showed up and took it to another level. I mean, Julius Erving even said, I don't see MJ on my top 5, and that's because of the competition Julius Erving played against. That's because of when MJ and Julius Erving faced each other 85, 86, and 87, Julius Erving was at the end of his career. MJ was just getting started. Yeah. That's unfair. That's an unfair comparison. It's an unfair comparison. Now, Michael Jordan against Kobe Bryant, however, that was fun.
Man,
that was
so
fun.
Where does may I ask this?
Go ahead.
Where does Kobe Bryant rank amongst your top 15 players? Where is he in that of the greatest of all time?
Don't you ever ask me that? Don't you ever ask me that question again, because I can't place him anywhere. He's in the top. All I will say is he's in the top 15. Where I place him, I can't answer. But is he in my top 15? Yes. Is he in my top 10? Hell yes. Okay. Gotcha. I'm not going to ignore a Michael Jordan clone who had the same kind of killer instinct. Come on, you know that to be true.
Oh,
you know that to be true. You know that to be true.
I grew up. Kobe Bryant is like I said, rest his soul.
Yes.
You know, one of my mentors, one of my people I looked up to. It's just it's great today. They inducted him, KG, and Timmy Duncan into the Hall of Fame, which is amazing. Congratulations to them. But it's just it's really kind of sad that you don't even get to see his most anticipated speech, because I know as Kobe did with everything, it would have been the greatest speech ever. One of the best speeches that has ever been spoken at Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. It just would have been. It's just kind of freakish to think about. But like I said, for him, he was like my Michael Jordan. That's who I saw, playing at these games. I unfortunately wasn't covering. Wish I was at the time, but you just see this clone, as you just said, like literally every single move, and it's just like, wow. I know people have been playing with him, and then it's like when he passes away, where do you rank him? Like a lot of people now, they want to push him up, but then on the top, it was like top 50 on ESPN. They ranked him. They were so disrespectful to Kobe, and I was just like, what?
Why are you surprised? Like, what? Considering the source, why are you surprised?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
You've heard me speak on this program about my how can I put this? I'll say it honestly. I'm all about kicking real on the show. I hate ESPN as much as I hate the Chicago Cubs.
Oh my. Oh my. That's saying something. You'll hold yourself in the room after 2 days. For 2 days, excuse me.
Once upon a time, I wanted to work for that evil 4-letter network. Now I'm putting my own network together. That tell you anything?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I listened to Jamel Hill's podcast on All the Smoking. She gave a lot of insight to where she was coming from on the whole dysfunction with her and ESPN and everything of that nature. Even with Curry Champion leaving the network, it's just a lot of things that go into it with ESPN. And yes, Stephen A. Smith, who was probably the most prominent African American sports journalist out here. Big ups to Stephen. I definitely learned a lot from watching him and his attributes. I mean, his accolades and stuff. His mannerisms on the television.
And I'll say this about Stephen A. I think ESPN screwed him.
Oh,
I think ESPN screwed him by taking away his radio show. The man can handle it.
Yes.
The man can handle it. You're paying him $8 to $10 million a year. Why are you taking his radio show away? It's his show. Listen, I'm a big fan of Stephen A. Once upon a time, I wasn't. I will happily admit, once upon a time, I wasn't a big fan, but I just couldn't go without listening to his show. I couldn't go without picking up some of the points that he brings out on his show that I didn't bring out on mine. That's learning, folks. It's like they're paying him $8 to $10 million a year. This is the final point we'll discuss, and then I got to have you back on to talk some more sports journalism. I got to have you back on. But think about this. You're paying Stephen A. $8 to $10 million a year. You had, quite frankly, you didn't see the ratings you wanted. You tanked it. You bring the Stephen A. Smith Show, you flip it between your main network and ESPN New York 98.7. Still don't see the ratings you want. You cut it, bring it back. You cut it again, you bring it back. You finally get the ratings you want from the Stephen A. Smith Show, which is 2 hours of greatness, and then you cut them. And then you cut the show. You give him an $8 to $10 million salary. He's flying all over the place doing different games and everything because the NBA is his thing. And I really, really appreciate his NBA knowledge. I do. All right.
Oh yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you different. As much smack as I talk about Stephen A., I will never be able to match his knowledge. That's why I study on a daily basis his mannerisms, his show, a couple of others, and I'm not trying to be like him. I'm trying to be better, because what you want to do is leave a legacy for those that follow you so they can better it, okay? And Stephen A. has done that for me. Stephen A. has done that for me. What I don't understand is that bloodthirsty, money-thirsty network paying him $8 to $10 million a year, and they chop his show. They did it the week of the national championship in New Orleans. And I'm like, why? Why is that?
Yeah, I was very confused over that. Very confused. And then they give Jason Fitz, who was pretty good as well. They give him now. He's taking over it. What is it, first take, your take? He's taking over that.
Okay, nothing against Jason Fitz, but that show sucks. If you wanted Stephen A. to be Stephen A., give him his show back. Now, I don't know the ins and outs or who said what or who did what or who made the decision. I just feel Stephen A. is getting screwed by not having those 2 hours. If I didn't have this show, and I built it from the ground up, and I'm continuing to build it, and thanks to the fans who tune in, if I didn't have this show, especially with the people that are in my life now, people will think something's wrong with me. I'm finally being consistent as we drive this show towards season number 7. And the rest of my programming distributed via Snowman Digital Media. But Snowman in the Morning is my baby. And this is one of the few times I will say it out loud. But I don't know how I could deal with if I didn't have this. Especially with what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. And then you talk about the freeness that you have on radio which is different from TV. It's just two different phases of your demeanor. You have to be straight on it live. I mean, you have to do the same with the radio, but you're more free on the radio. You have callers call in. You can literally speak your mind a little bit more on the radio. On First Take, it's just like he can speak, which he always does, in the most amazing way.
He does.
Like you said, you attested to this as well. Just his mannerisms, his verbiage, everything that he does is the best that you can absolutely look at, but taking away his free form, taking away his radio show, and when he announced it, I was like, you have to be kidding me. Like, his radio show was so good, especially when you spoke on them continuously, giving him a show, taking it away, giving him a show, taking it away, and it's just like, he has been consistent with it. And I'm pretty sure the ratings were through the roof with this show because I was watching it, and I know a lot of people who were tuning into this show, especially his radio show, if they couldn't catch the morning First Take show. They
either catch the Stephen A. Smith Show or the podcast version thereof. They would catch it. They would catch it, and that's what you want. Man, let's stop here, because if we keep going, I'm going to run out of tape. I will say that right. I will say that right now. Malik Jackson, tell everybody where they can find you, my friend.
You can find me on Twitter at Sports by Malik. Everything is proper. You can find me on Instagram at LivingLife_Leak, LIK. And the Living Life is proper as well. Facebook, Malik Jackson. You can search me. We're friends on Facebook. If you have Mr. Brian Snow, then you can search. You can find me on there. I'm writing for the 3-Point Conversion. I write NHL articles for them. You can go and check that out. And pretty much, I'm about to try to get my own podcast going as well. Try to get something in the loops for the future. But
I want to be on it, right? I want on it, right? You know I want to be a guest on your podcast, right?
You already know you're going to be on it. Come on now. Like I said, I just appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, to get to talk some sports through this tough time. But I'm just happy that you're safe and your family is doing well.
Thank you.
And everybody just stay safe during these times.
Please
and keep
do.
each other tight.
Please do. Please do. Well, that's going to just about do it for this edition of Snowman in the Morning. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to log on to Snowman Digital Media, where you can hear a replay of this show, and also snowmaninthemorning.com, where you can hear a replay of this show. Check out the podcast on both sites, as the podcast will be available immediately after I close up shop here, which I'm about to do now. Until tomorrow, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move. And always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until tomorrow, Snowman's out of here.